What about now? What about now? Not yet? What about now? Wait a minute. What about now? Yes? Okay, good. Okay, I see what happened. The software had a problem. The hardware was fine. I thought it was the hardware. Nope, we had a software glitch. No worries. Sorry about that, you guys. Um, so we'll just kind of start over. That's funny. All right, so we'll just start over with telling you guys what we're working on today. Today is I'll probably have to fix this in the edit. Hey everybody, this is Roberto Blake. Welcome to week 6 out of 12 of our creator workshop series. We actually are going to be going through our YouTube creator playbook and teaching you about video editing, which is very different than live streaming. You will see video editing happening live here on the channel, and we'll answer a bunch of your questions about it, but we are going to get you through our creator playbook here so that you can understand how to properly use the right techniques and simplify your video editing workflow. A lot of you are spending 10 hours on things that should only take 2 hours in many cases because you've never been taught how to edit efficiently. Many of you are learning this on your own. You've never been trained in a corporate environment. You've never been trained in a school environment on video editing and workflows. I've edited over 1,700 videos for this channel, including our members only content and private videos. I've also edited content for other channels and businesses in the past. I've edited probably over 2,500 videos on YouTube total over the last 12 or 13 years. And also we'll be telling you about the tools that you can use for videoing. So that will be in our presentation and we will go through this. Then we'll transition over into my video editing software in Premiere Pro, and we will show you a lot of those video editing techniques firsthand in real time so you can see it. We'll try and hopefully that doesn't crash the stream doing that. Also, we've made the slide presentation so that you know all the tools, all the resources, all the techniques, and you can get these diagrams to help you. We made it so you can download those in the description of this on YouTube. If you're watching live, we put that in the chat. This is our 6th week of doing YouTube workshops. We're doing 12 weeks total. We're teaching you all the fundamentals of everything you need. If you're under 20,000 subscribers, if you're under 20,000 subscribers, this will help you. And like I said, it's not just about helping you grow an audience. It's helping you understand your channel, understand your audience, build systems, be more efficient with your time. Most of you, if you're under 20,000, you're a working class content creator. You only have 10, 20 hours a week of spare time. So knowing how to take your video editing from 10 hours to 2 hours is incredibly helpful, incredibly meaningful. If you're watching live, share the stream. If you're watching the replay, then definitely help us out and make sure that you are sharing the replay. We're going to leave this up and live on my YouTube channel in the live tab on YouTube. So you will always be able to access it. You will always be able to use this as a resource in the future. That is something we want to be very clear for you guys. We want you to have the workshops. We want you to have the slides. We'll try to answer your questions when we move on to the video editing portion of this. But again, really happy to get into this for you guys. And like I said, we will show you video editing in Premiere Pro, which is what I use. We'll answer general questions about video editing. So you will get to see Premiere Pro and how I edit in Premiere Pro, and you'll get to see how I do my workflow there. We will cover that, but that will come later. What we're going to initially do is make sure you understand tools and techniques and workflow and how to do your edits in the right order, because a lot of you are editing as if this is art and an art project instead of editing as if it is content to be consumed by an audience. And that's what's holding a lot of you back. So we want to make sure you have that. So that's what we're doing. The mods are also going to help out in the chat and answer some questions as well. And yeah, so in the meantime, let's go ahead and jump into what we want to cover as far as understanding the beginning of video editing workflows. But we're also going to cover a little bit about just getting started in general in the mindset here for being a creator for anyone who's new to the workshops and new to my content. Also, we want to make sure you guys get the slides. So you can go to the URL here. We're on week 6. So instead of typing in week 5, you can just type in week 6 in the browser and you'll get the slides for this week. Same thing with the QR code. You can just change the number 5 to 6 and you'll get the slides for this week. We also encourage you to check out Awesome Creator Academy and the Pro Group. We try to help you grow your reach, your reputation, your revenue. We meet twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays in private group video calls. And we're able to give people constructive criticism, feedback, and support as content creators. So make sure you're checking out awesomecreatoracademy.com for more. And we're going to get a little bit into how I built my creator business, just so you know what is possible. And for anybody who's new, just, well, why should we listen to you, Roberto? So we'll get into that here in a second. So I built my career first in the world of photography, graphic design, and advertising. I worked at a web hosting company. I worked at an ad agency. I became a marketing manager. So I was on the other side of all of this as a corporate person doing content creation. I was a freelancer full time before I became a content creator. So my background was before doing YouTube, I did the same work that we do in social media and content creation as a traditional marketer. And I worked in advertising for cable broadcast television, mostly sports advertising for a lot of it, but also domestic. So we worked with Madison Square Garden, HBO Sports, things like the Bradley Closey fight, the Con Madonna fight, the Margarito Pacquiao fight, like stuff like that. The Lombardi documentary, some comedy specials like Dennis Miller and Bette Midler. So those were things that I worked on, and I did ad campaigns, and I did a lot of billboards and out-of-home advertising. That ultimately is part of my background and why I was able to come to YouTube and teach people how to get into graphic design and build careers. And before I ever started teaching people about YouTube on YouTube, I grew to 100,000 subscribers in 3 years with helpful tech and tutorial videos around software, Photoshop, video editing, camera reviews and tutorials, and help guides so that you could go and be a freelancer like I am, or you could go work in corporate America and get a decent job in the industry. This was before content creation itself became a thriving industry where you could be full time. So ultimately, beyond that, and beyond doing brand deals with companies, which is about over $100,000 a year of my income is from brand deals with companies. You've seen some of my sponsorship work before on the channel. And ultimately, I do okay with AdSense, but most of it's brand deals like most full-time YouTubers, but also with Awesome Creator Academy through Kajabi and building my own online membership group that I fully control. Instead of splitting 30% with YouTube on my memberships, I was able to do well and make that a six-figure-a-year business. And even this month, we did a really good month for us. We did a 20,000 revenue month. So I've been doing this as a content creator for years and years now. I've done brand deals. I've done the Amazon influencer program. I've done affiliate marketing. I figured out how to diversify revenue in YouTube, and I never went viral to get to 600,000 subscribers. I did it all with hard work and with non-entertainment based videos. But I did coach and help over 600 creators in my time, with most of them being entertainment channels. And I've helped grow a silver play button channel in every category of the 15 categories in YouTube: automotive, beauty and fashion, comedy, animation, um, sports and fitness, etc. I've grown a silver play button channel in all 15 categories of YouTube as a coach. So I do know how most niches and categories work. I've helped even grow some gaming channels to 1 million and a fitness YouTuber to 1 million, and one of the largest animal related channels helped grow them to 1 million. Came to me when they had less than 10,000, 20,000 subscribers. It was McCann Dogs. It was Ken Steep of McCann Dogs, the largest dog training business in the world, and they're based out of Canada, and they have one of the largest YouTube channels around animals and pets in the entire world. So, we've done very well, and we've coached a lot of people successfully. I say all that to say that I know that I can answer a lot of your questions that you have, regardless of what your niche and background is. Now, I want to be honest with a lot of you about how long it takes to succeed on YouTube. If you're a working class content creator with a 9 to 5 job, you have 10 to 20 hours a week of spare time with the scraps of energy you have left, it's probably going to take you 5 or 7 years to be successful full time on YouTube. A lot of that is because you will spend the first 4 years, just like in college, learning and figure things out. But unlike college, you'll be posting and building in public, feeling pressure and stress from that. And you might pivot niches the same way someone gets stressed out and pivots their majors. And every time you pivot, it's like starting over from zero with regard to the audience and the algorithm. And that can be really rough for a lot of people. So, because people have to pivot and change their direction, or because they start really young and they start young and experienced and they outgrow a niche because they grow up, or they outgrow a hobby, or their lifestyle changes because they get married, they have kids, they something like that. They change jobs, they change careers. It also has a massive impact on their channel, and it can set back their channel and their growth. A lot of you, it takes you longer to grow because also a lot of you are over 30 if you watch my content. You already have a family, you have a career, you have a job. You just may not be fully satisfied with that career, but finding time for content creation is really difficult for you because you have 40 to 50 hours a week that you're working, and then you still have to be an adult, take care of yourself, and in many cases, take care of and raise a family. It's very difficult. It's very challenging. And so it's not unusual that it takes you longer to grow on YouTube because of that. The biggest YouTubers who always blow up and go viral most of the time are people under 30, usually under 25. And the reality is they don't have responsibilities. They're largely under 25, not married, don't have children, and they can give 40, 60, or 80 hours a week to YouTube if that's what it takes. And so you can't compare your situation when it comes to YouTube to most people who are blowing up or going viral if your lifestyle is just very different than theirs. A lot of these people also get benefits from family members or outside help that you don't know about that makes it a little easier for them to make their content or dedicate themselves to this full time for like a year. What normally happens for a working class content creator is they'll have a vacation or 2 weeks, or maybe they lose their job and get laid off, and then they try to go really hard and go all in on YouTube, and they get to focus and give 40 hours of concentrate effort to it for like a month, 40 hours a week for like a month or 2 months or 3 months while their life is changing, or they're on a summer vacation or something like that. And usually that's what it takes for them to focus, find their voice, find everything that they're looking for, and to break out and to get momentum. Then they have the confidence to really try. And in that point in time in their life, once they're able to do that and move on for like a year to 2 years of doing that, then they become successful, and then they're really starting to make money and get traction. That's usually what happens. There are exceptions to that, obviously. At the long tail, though, 5 to 7 years. Like I said, for me, I came into it as a full-time freelancer, and I got from zero to 100,000 in 3 years. But that doesn't mean that I was making perfect money that quickly. I still had to do work for my consulting clients in freelance and in social media, but I also started doing public speaking, making connections. And then by the time I started getting bigger brand deals, I also had the academy up and running. So I was always diversifying, and my big income stream, because I did a lot of tech related content for camera gear, high-end camera gear had affiliate marketing at the time. The Amazon influencer program was really good for me. And if I did a professional camera lens, even if a video got 10,000 views on a specific camera lens, the commissions on the lens was $90 a sale. So if I got 12 sales, I was making like $1,000. I lived in North Carolina. That was rent and utilities at the time. At the time. That was before this economy, obviously. So that just gives you an understanding of my background and also what you can expect. I do not sell you snake oil going viral, blowing up. That wasn't my experience. So I don't tell you that you're going to blow up or you're going to go viral. I didn't, but I still figured out how to make a full-time income doing something I enjoy. You also need to stop being really hard on yourself as a creator. It's very rare to go viral or to blow up or to get massive amounts of subscribers. I got this data from Mr. Beast, former strategist, Mario Juice, great guy. He and I will be speaking at VidCon this year together again. Well, not together on stage, but we'll both be at VidCon again. We were at VidCon last year as well. I've spoken at VidCon, I think, 3 or 4 times now, and I've always enjoyed the experience of being a speaker there. He pulled the data from Social Blade. There are 115 million channels on YouTube according to Clear Media, I believe it is, but Social Blade only tracks 63 million because it doesn't track the channels for the most part under 1,000 subscribers unless they submit themselves to Social Blade. So there's so many more channels that are under 1,000 subscribers that aren't counted in Social Blade. So the thing that I would say here is that look at how rare it is to even get 10,000 subscribers in YouTube. It's 3 million channels worldwide out of over 100 million. There's 3 million in the partner program out of 100 million worldwide. Now, some of that's because the partner program isn't in their country, and that's fine. But I want you to understand that if you do even get to 10,000 subscribers, you're already successful because you've achieved something that a small percentage of the entire platform, less than 10% of creators ever even get to 10,000 subscribers. Less than 10% of creators are in the partner program. If you just get in the partner program, get monetized, and then you can get to 10,000 subscribers, you've made 3 milestones that 90% of people on YouTube never do and never will do, probably. And so, to the smaller content creators out there, don't beat yourself up. You are, in your own way, already successful, but is the beginning of success. It's the beginning of success. Success is not a final destination, it's a journey. And you could be at the beginning of success, and there could be further to go. But you shouldn't abuse yourself or put pressure on yourself um, if you don't have like 100,000 subscribers just because it's acknowledged by the community as a milestone with a trophy and by YouTube with a trophy. It's still very meaningful to just get to bronze level and be at 10K subscribers as a working class content creator. And so if you can at least get monetized in the partner program, that is a taste of success. And that's the first rung of that is 500 subscribers, 3,000 watch hours. If you get to 4,000 watch hours and 1,000 subscribers, you've hit another level of success. And if you can get to 10,000 subscribers, you've hit a level of success that puts you in the top percentage of all content creators, whether you realize it or not. When you compare yourself to people who have 100,000 subscribers or people who've gone viral, you are literally comparing yourself to the 1% and the 0.1%. And here's the data. Here's the proof. Sarah Dawn has a question. I don't mind this question, but inactive channels are still irrelevant to these statistics because we're talking about all the channels that have ever even tried. So from an attempt to success ratio, it doesn't matter if you're inactive because it meant they tried and they didn't succeed. So that's why it doesn't matter if we talk about inactive channels. But for those of you who really, really, really care about the inactive channel narrative, my sources at YouTube tell me that globally, worldwide, that there are 50 million unique uploaders to YouTube every single month. Every single month, 50 million global unique uploaders. So those are unique and they're not always the same unique uploaders. So that means that there still are over 60,000 active monthly upload channels to YouTube because the 50 million is not always the same 50 million every single month. So we know that at a minimum. So that's why it wouldn't matter. Um, but yeah. But if you do want to be, granular about it, just use the 50 million, use the 50 million monthly active uploaders. I just wish YouTube would make that data public, to be honest, but they're starting to make some stuff public, like how they did like 70 billion dollars for creators over the last 5 years or something like that. So they're starting to release more data. But if they would just say that there are 50 million monthly active uploaders to, sorry, yeah, 50 million active uploaders to YouTube, the same way they tell you that there are almost 3 billion users worldwide, then people would just understand, and the active uploader narrative would go away. But yeah, but there you go. So for the numbers nerds, those are the numbers. Um, Something we'll be covering throughout the next few weeks in this 12-week series is we talk a lot about these 15 creator fundamentals, themes, your tribe, the unique talent that you bring to the table, the tribe you're trying to attract, the themes that the audience cares about, the transformation that the audience is looking for in a video, the topic that determines how many people can watch your videos, the total addressable market of how many people care about an idea, the importance of the title being able to emotionally trigger a viewer, triggers being those things that stand out and have emotional resonance, impact, and relevancy to people, timing being important, thumbnails, stopping the scroll, the importance of testing, A/B testing being very important, tracking your data, and also for the tracking side, tracking your conversions and the traffic that you drive to brands for your brand deals, building trust and transparency with your audience so that you can convert people on those brand deals or on your own products or on your affiliate links for stuff like Amazon, the importance of testimonials of people vouching for you and recommending you, the importance of what are the key takeaways someone gets when they watch your content one way or another. So, that's something to think about. So we cover these 15 themes because I think these are things that creators can focus on that will make all the difference in the world for them. Now, when it comes to video editing, because this is a workshop on efficient video editing, and like I said, we will be covering specifically, we will be covering here how to we will be covering how to edit in Premiere Pro, which is what I use. Um, so we will cover that. Do not worry. We will absolutely get to actual in real life video editing. But regardless of what software you are using, these are the most important techniques. And for those of you who want to work with content creators and become full-time editors, I was doing video editing for companies, for brands, mostly event companies that did conferences. I was doing the video editing for them. So this was something I was getting paid to do. The most important things you can learn are the cuts. So you want to know L cuts and J cuts. L cuts are not as important as J cuts. J cuts are your jump cuts that most of you just do in YouTube, and we can automate that if we use Premiere Pro. So very important there. Proxy imports for those of you doing 4K video editing or even 8K video editing, if you're in the tech niche, color correcting for mostly for skin tones, and color grading for style, audio correction, very important, audio mixing and EQ, sound design and sound effects, motion graphics, uh, transcripts for your videos and how to do that, learning green screen, multicam editing. These are two of my specialties. Transitions, something always to know how to do. Audio syncing, speed ramping, adjustment layers, masking, exporting video, and matching color between shots and scenes. So if you learn these, there's nothing that your clients could ever throw at you that you wouldn't be able to really accomplish until we're getting into visual effects and into After Effects editing. But if you can do these things in your video editing software, you have basically mastered that video editing software. And if I were going to tell you to do anything, I would tell you to try to spend 20 hours in a month, or even 40 hours in a month if you can, or even over 12 weeks if that's what it takes to learn each of these techniques. If you can spend 4 to 12 weeks making sure you understand all these things and how to do them, and that you do them a couple of times until you feel you really got the hang of them without needing to put out a video So, I mean, work on these to actually learn instead of to get a video out. Do them to learn the process. If you do this for 4 to 12 weeks, you essentially will be a master video editing from a technical standpoint, not from a storytelling standpoint, not from a stylistic standpoint, not from a creative standpoint, but from a technical standpoint. There is nothing you would not be able to do, and there is not a video that you wouldn't be able to duplicate or make or copy the style of in YouTube. So if you can do these, you can do anything. And if you look at this list is everything you've ever seen the biggest YouTubers do. Casey Neistat doesn't even need to do most of this. But if you look at every other YouTuber that you can think of, any YouTuber that you can name, Mr. Beast, Matt Pat from Game Theory, so on and so forth, everything you've ever seen is basically down to some combination of these techniques. Now, to simplify the process of video editing, I think you should always consider what you're going to do about your correction, your cutting, and then move on to your effects, B-roll, music, motion graphics, sound effects, and all of those things. So I think that you should bring in your footage. First, bring in your footage and your audio, and then correct those things. Correct the skin tones for your A-roll video on the timeline. Correct the audio and make sure the audio is good. Then you can start cutting things because now you won't have to make those corrections on every individual scene. You would have made it on the masters. So I would color correct and audio correct the masters of the A-roll video and the A-roll audio, and then I would move on to cutting it afterward and then putting it in the right order and sequencing. Once I put it in the right order and sequencing, then I would start to add things like my background music layer. Then I would start to add things like my B-roll. And now that I have my B-roll, I would probably add my motion graphics and effects. Then I would add my sound effects so that can match my B-roll, motion graphics, and so on. So, and then once I have it timing wise, match that, I'd go back and EQ it to make sure the mixing is good. Then I do my final polishing, add in any transitions, do any cleanup work, do my finishing, and then I export it in the format that I need. That would be the most simplified version of editing your videos. So if you think about it that way, this makes it simple and clean. I'm bringing in my footage and I'm correcting the color for my skin tones and the audio to be clear so that now when I cut anything, I'm cutting the right thing. I'm cutting footage that's already correct. So I do correcting before I do cutting. I don't want to do it after the fact. Then I add all of my flourishes and I layer them. And the last thing is my sound effects because then I can match the timing. So I'm not going to do those things one at a time. I'm going to do all of it and all of my, all right, here's my music tracks. That's in there. Then I can go ahead and make sure the music tracks are all level. Then I can go ahead and add in all of my B-roll. Now, if I'm going to do text and motion graphics, it's probably going to sit above my B-roll. So then go in and do that. Then I can go in and do my transitions. And then lastly, I can do my special effects so that I do all my my sound effects. So I do all my sound effects at once so that the sound effects match the timing of all the visuals. That's why they need to be done last. And then I can fine tune all of this before I export it. So that's my finishing. So this here also represents the overall video process, like I said, in terms of the workflow. I would import my footage, all my scenes and selects. Then I'm going to correct the audio and the color. Then I'm going to add my B-roll and graphics and text and transitions, and then my sound effects layer, and then I'll export it. Now, in terms of your video assets, this is basically what it comes down to. And I would make folders within your project for your assets so you could organize them. Also, if you make your own B-roll library, and you make your own sound effects and music library, you can drag those in as folders into your project so it's organized and so you have all of your assets organized. Very important to label and organize your assets. So I would do that. And we'll talk about that here in a bit. Excuse me. So, very important to organize your assets. Audio is more important than video, as we learned at the beginning here. Audio is more important than video, and it should be a priority in your content. Uh, don't think you can always fix everything in post. Make sure that you have good audio to begin with before you try to fix everything in post. Um, that's something that I think a lot of people take for granted. For your audio correcting, you want to try to focus on clarity and fidelity. Then you want to eliminate any pauses, any breathing, things like that. You want to add background music and sound effects, and then you want to do your EQing to level those things out. For faster video editing, I like to take advantage of everything that the software offers. AI tools that exist in Adobe. Adobe Audio Enhance can give you extremely good quality audio with just a few clicks and the sliders. Now, I'm going to show you some audio things here, but the way that the software for my live streaming works, we probably won't be able to hear the audio during the edits. So I apologize for that. When I can, I will make more video editing tutorials around this. I currently do have a video editing tutorial out that I made recently. It's hitting in search. It's not going to get algorithm views. It's going to get search views. But I made one of the fastest videos to teach you how to properly add background music to YouTube and then how to level it out so it doesn't overpower everything. I also did some videos about how to legally use copyright music on YouTube. Mods, if we can add a link to my add background music tutorial that I made. I think I made it last week or 2 weeks ago. We could add a link to that to the chat. I'll add it to the description later, but if we can link that in the chat, that'd be great. I have several tutorials on the channel. Some of them are a little dated. I plan to make a new series of video editing tutorials based on Adobe Premiere Pro 2025 for you guys, if that's something you're interested in. But I do have some recent stuff on the channel around audio editing in Premiere Pro specifically. Here are some of the most important tools for video editing for content creators. Opus Clip is great because you can repurpose your content. Shout out to Opus Clip. They are someone who sponsored me in the past, and we've worked together. I'm an affiliate of them. Gling AI, who I'm hoping to work with, they're really good if you want to cut things using AI and automation and cut a lot of the dead space and things out of your videos. And they work for all video editing software, I think, or at least the big three. They work for Premiere, Final Cut Pro, and DaVinci Resolve. Adobe Podcast Enhance is free and it will clean up the audio of your videos. The main thing is you do need to change the audio to stereo after the fact because it'll be mono and you don't want that. Premiere Pro is excellent. There are a lot of good AI tools in Adobe Express. Firecut is good for podcast creators who want to edit a multicam podcast using AI. Topaz AI is good for upscaling your videos. Motion VFX is great if you want plugins and motion graphics for your text. Storyblocks for B-roll and effects. Epidemic Sound for copyright-free music. Licked if you want to license copyright music on your channel and stuff that you heard on Spotify and the radio. Envato Elements for templates and After Effects graphics. Adobe Audition for audio mastering, and Adobe After Effects if you want to go crazy and do visual effects and all kinds of animation. So these would be the best overall video editing tools for most content creators. Again, we definitely want to invite you to learn more through Awesome Creator Academy. We do everything we can to help content creators become full-time business owners, grow your reach, reputation, and revenue. We meet twice a week in the pro group on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so that's something that I definitely want you guys to check out. You can go to awesomecreatoracademy.com and learn more. Go to www.awesomecreatoracademy.com/join, and you'll see what we have to offer. So yeah, that's it for the slide presentation part. So I'm gonna look at your questions in the chat, but also we're gonna jump into Premiere Pro here in a bit and walk you through that. And I'm gonna show you guys kind of some of my initial technical parts of video editing and techniques first. And then I'm gonna walk you into kind of a step-by-step of editing as I answer your questions. So that's something. Also, someone's asking for the link. Folks in the chat, for the channel reviews, if you want a channel review, there are 30-minute channel reviews, but those are not $99 calls. Those are recordings where I will do a recording where I give you notes on your channel. But if you want a call with me, I offer 30-minute calls and I offer 90-minute calls. Mods, can you guys also link the YouTube channel review link instead of just the coaching link? Because they give them the two options for channel reviews, which is the recorded video where I record a video and email it to you. And that's a video that can be up to 15 minutes, and that's a private channel review, not public. And there's also a $2.99 call where it's a video call with me one-on-one for 30 minutes. So we have that. So you post that information for the people in the chat asking for it. And then, of course, if you want a strategy session with me, I have 90-minute strategy sessions. We have that over on the coaching link for the website. But we'll go ahead and jump into Premiere, and we'll also try to answer your questions. And also, I've done a tutorial on how to green screen in Premiere, but seeing is believing, as they say. So let's see. I have to share screen again because of how Premiere opens projects. Okay, so this is what is referred to as an alpha matte that you're seeing here. And this is off of a project that I green screened already. I also made a custom green screen preset that does a lot of the heavy lifting because I manually did the inputs for it. So this is just the alpha matte. Now, if I go into the effect controls here, and I go from the alpha channel to composite, you can see the composite here. And this is a AI generated background. And if we were to go to the video track for video track 1 is the AI background, we remove that. So you can see that's just a full green screen there. And if we were to turn off the green screen effect, which is a modified ultra key, then you can see what that looks like in terms of green screen. Now, green screen is one of the effects that you see in my videos. I do a green screen style video about maybe once a month here, maybe twice a month. So it just depends. I will talk about over editing and retention. We will actually bring that up. So thank you for reminding me. I believe that you should be editing for viewer enjoyment, and especially these days, I think the hyper retention editing style, even Mr. Beast has toned that down because it's not resonating and people are not relating to that anymore. So, very important note there. But yeah, so you can see this is the original green screen. Now, something to note is the lighting. The way that I light this is I have to light from the sides, and I use tube lights from Aperture for this. There are cheaper tube lights out there that people make. You just want to make sure they're bright as hell because you want to light from the sides, especially if you have a small room. I use the Elgato green screen because it's seamless. It's the best, it's probably the best bang for the buck. So I use the Elgato green screen XL. There are also some off-brand like Ruberry and stuff like that that actually work really well. I've used those in the past. Not big quality difference there. It's just that I just get the widest green screen I can get, believe it or not. Wider is better, even especially for a small room, because you'll have more coverage and room to move your arms, and you won't have to worry about zooming in too tightly before you have to go to edges or before you have to worry about cutting or cropping, because that can get really annoying. So I like just being able to have edge to edge coverage for my arms. And you can notice that that's what I test in my green screen is the edge to edge coverage for my arms and making sure I don't have to cut or crop the video. And I also want to make sure that I keep a smaller light that lights some of the area under my arms so that it's not as much of a problem when I actually apply the green screen effect. And therefore, that's why you're not seeing a lot of artifacting or problems in my green screen here um, from my mat. So lighting is very important in video in general. Lighting makes or breaks the quality of your videos, believe it or not. So lighting is really important. Not in the 12-week series here, but at some point we will do a production workshop. Production might need its own 4 to 6 week workshop series here on the channel at some time to do production. And if we do production, I'll probably have to figure out I think I've figured out a way to do a walk and talk live stream. I just won't see the chat during the walk and talk portion of it. But I'll have to get either my brother or sister to help me um, to be a producer for that live stream workshop because I'll probably have to film in my basement, or if I film up here, I'll still need to do a walk and talk portion. In which case, with StreamYard, I'll just flip over to continuity camera on my iPhone, but we'll put that on my DJI rig so that I can use a wireless microphone for the audio sourcing for that. And then you can still have quality audio while I do a walk and talk behind the scenes of production and show you guys this. But like I said, production and how to film YouTube videos will be its own workshop. In addition to edited tutorials that I'm filming, the workshops will be so you can ask questions and also so I can show you the real time behind the scenes instead of an edited version that leaves stuff out. You'll see how it works in the real world, just like you're about to see with some of the editing stuff here. So I have all these settings locked in, but that's because I made my own custom preset. So when I type in over here where it says key, there's keying effects and there's ultra key, but there's also custom presets. And in my case, I do have a RB hard green screen matte is the custom preset that I made myself that works perfectly 99% of the time and only requires minor tweaking. So if in a situation, and I'll show you here how it would work, in a situation where let's say I remove this effect for now, you can see how it is here. If I go ahead and I bring the green screen effect onto here, you can see it's not initially perfect. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and I'm going to go into custom. I'm not going to use the eyedropper here. I'm going to kind of manually kind of do this because I kind of know what it should be. And so I can literally eyeball it, but I can only eyeball it like that and get it that good with one click. I can get it that good with one click and get an alpha matte that even handles my braids because I'm an experienced editor and I understand color and I was a photographer and a graphic designer. So I understand it that well to where I can make a strong composite matte at a glance like that with the basics of my preset that easily. Now, I want to show you to make a point here, and I'll just eliminate this effect. I want to show you if I just used regular Ultra Key in Adobe, what it does when I bring that effect on. So here, let's see. I'm using regular Ultra Key, and you have to choose a key color here. And you can watch my green screen tutorial to learn all about this. It's a 90-second green screen tutorial, but then I have to pick a color. Now, what most people will do is they'll just pick this bright green, and you can see that, oh, well, that's not really working or doing what we want. And to make it clearer that it's not doing what we want, this is how it looks on black without the background in there. So you'd have to play with the color slider. Now, again, at a glance, I know I'll just go with well, this is the what do you call it? This is the default in Premiere. And so the default isn't really cutting it for me, even with picking another color here. So what I ultimately had to do to get all of this to work was I had to go into the color Lumetri color. I had to go into Lumetri color and to the HLS, which is hue, saturation, and lightness slider. And I had to manually adjust a lot of this um, differently to be able to do this. And there's like manual settings that I had to do and that I had to experiment with regard to setting up the matte here in order to accomplish this, to where I had to bump the exclusive saturation around the color green specifically to get this to work. And that's how my preset worked out. Now, there will be a longer tutorial where I show you how to do that manually in terms of selecting and subtracting color and doing that. But it gets really convoluted and complicated. The more well lit your background is, the less you have to do this. And then also you could just use aggressive mode here in composite, and then also mess with the sliders around the matte itself and adjust things like highlights or shadows and transparency. Now, the key is to not screw it up in such a way to where you eliminate yourself from the background, which is why we also use the alpha channel to kind of see ourselves and the white and see what's going on here. So we would do that. There's things like shadow tolerance that we would play with in the sliders, and so on and so forth. And we'll see what we can do with ramping this. And so we do what we can with these sliders and settings to get it as clean as possible. Like I said, my preset already covers most of this, and my preset also is something I give away for free in the green screen tutorial on my channel, so that most of you don't have to agonize over this. Because as you saw earlier, that if I just throw on my preset and then just tweak this, there's nothing I have to worry about, and I don't have to go through all of the rigmarole of all this. Literally, my preset will just do all of the work, and it'll give us more or less a almost nearly perfect result every single time. And then we can just throw our background in there. So that's the green screen stuff. And I know that people like that effect, and that there are a lot of people who are inspired by creators like CoffeeZilla and other people, or even me, to do green screen stuff. And green screen can be really dope. And you can see that, if you wanted, you could create, even, it works so well that I could have an accurate running effect um, if I want to, and that it works out really well. Full range of motion with the green screen, even works with my braids. It even works with my braids. So it's a very clean overall matte and green screen. And it doesn't have to be insanely difficult to do, but that's why I did the tutorial. If you use the tutorial and my preset, this becomes easier. That's why that tutorial has 300,000 views, by the way. Yeah, color accuracy with your screens. There's a reason that I use LG monitors a lot of the time. There's other monitors, and I always try to make sure my monitors have the same presets. And I usually try to use either Apple or Adobe sRGB for my screens. So yeah, just catching up here on the chat a little bit. Yep. Yeah, 300,000 views on the green screen video. Yep. Terry has a question. Question for Inside Talking Head, does adding LUTs in post create a noticeable improvement with effort? I use an iPhone Pro 15 and would shoot in ProRes if I got into LUTs. I think it's overkill for most people, Terry. What I tend to do is there is a certain amount of after basic color correction, there is a little bit that I do, but I try to not take it too far, if I'm being honest, because then you start to get into things that can look unnatural. Um, so let's start a new project, and we'll call this demo project, just to give you guys some context here. Adobe has a bunch of sample footage we can use, but you guys aren't going to really do that, and you guys don't particularly care about any of that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do what most of you would do, and we're going to just close out these projects for now. So what we're going to do for our stuff is we're just going to bring in some footage from one of my drives. Let's see, unedited media from, that's a huge file. I don't want to use that file. That's too big. That one's not terrible. Well, we're not going to bring in a green screen one because that'll just take up too much resources on the streaming. We will just bring in this one to show you some basics for the video editing side and how Premiere Pro handles video editing. And then we will probably bring in something else for the sake of like continuity and playing with things. But to show you guys some basics, the way that I do this is a video that I shot from beginning to end. As you guys know, I do my videos in one take. This is the preview timeline when I double click on this. And so what I normally do is I usually just import my video and I drag it to the timeline in Premiere Pro. Now, in this case, I was using 4-channel audio, which most of you don't care about or don't need to care about. To simplify all of this, we're only going to use 2 channels of audio for left and right. I'm going to hold Option, which will be Alt in Windows, and I'm going to delete these empty audio tracks just to give me more room on the timeline for something like a music track to be background music under this. Like I said, I do have a tutorial on adding background music if you guys care about that. But the main key here is I'm going to show you guys basically the beginnings of what kind of my workflow would look like. So I'm going to do some basic color correction on this. And so we're going to go to Lumetri Color here in Premiere. This is the panel for Lumetri Color. And then I'm going to go basic correction. And I actually want this to be a little lighter. So I'm going to increase the exposure just slightly here. I'm going to reduce the shadows so that the details in my jacket are a little clear. But I'm also going to pull back the highlights because I think the whites are a little too white there. And I'm going to also play with the contrast, and I'm going to boost the contrast a little bit. Some of you, depending on the look you want, will change this differently. If I thought I wasn't warm enough, I would increase the slider toward warmth here and temperature, or if I thought I needed a cooler look, that gets more into the grading. But I'm looking more for accuracy of skin tones, so it's pretty close here as it is. So I'm going to mostly leave it alone. Depending on what I want to do, I can make the blacks a little richer here by pulling them down. And because I pulled back the shadows, I still have detail in my jacket and shirt. And the goal here is to make it to where you can kind of clearly see, even with the black, where certain shapes and things are. So I think that that actually looks pretty good overall. And that does my basic color correction for mostly the entire video. And the key is that it's accurate to my skin tones and bright enough in the areas that I want. Mostly with the fact of not losing detail in areas that are black or white. So I have the basics of that pretty much done. For the audio, there's a couple of things you guys could do. There is an audio track mixer in Premiere Pro. If you go to Window and you do audio track mixer, it'll bring this up. This is where you guys are asking about things like EQing and mixing. There's a little thing that says show and hide effects panel here. And the thing is, with our audio selected for our tracks, we could do things here like noise reduction and do denoise, which you probably don't need to crank all the way to 40. You could probably just crank this down to about 8 or 12 and be fine. And then we can add de-reverb in noise reduction. We could do that if we feel like we're getting some echo off the walls. Or if we wanted to, we can also do single band compressor, then right click on it and change that to either voice thickener or to vocal booster. I use a voice thickener, and just so you guys know what that does, basically it's how you can get a little bit more bass in your voice. It's all about that bass, no treble. So yeah. So if you're all about that bass, that's what you want to do. So you can do that. And then if we hold Option Alt in Windows, you can drag and duplicate that to another sound layer. If you're using left and right channel audio like I am here, then you could do that. Just depends on your microphone setup. Usually your audio will all be on one track and it'll be left and right channels. But if you're using a different microphone setup, you could be having a 2-track or 4-track audio. So just be aware of that. And that's how you duplicate your settings for your audio effect across tracks. Like I said, because of the screen recording software, you will not hear the audio from my video play in the software. Primary example. I'm sure you guys are hearing none of that right now. So we've done our, in my mind, most of our basic audio correction. Now, if you still want to do some audio correction and you want Adobe to do most of the work for you, you can go to the Essential Sound panel and you can go to where it says clean up noisy dialogue. And then you can toggle down and you can see things like where it says repair, and it has toggles and sliders for reducing noise, reducing rumble, de-hum, de-ess, and reduce reverb. And you'll want to play with those by ear based on how your own sound is coming out. So that is what you will want to do. Now, when it comes to audio levels, once we add background music here, what we usually would want to do is do this visually and by ear. And usually for most of you, you're going to want to drop it to around either -18 or -22 for your audio track, for your music. So if I were to do something with music, let's say I wanted to pull in something from, let's see, stock audio. Oh yeah, I didn't move anything into this folder yet for that. Well, let's access the network then. Let's see. Projects. Just give me 1 second. I'm trying to find audio, music audio to bring in here. So just bear with me. Let's see. I could have swore I made a folder for music or epidemic sound in here. But also I could just go to browse here in the audio tracks library and get something from Adobe stock. They have music and they have sound effects. So I could do that with it directly in Adobe. But for the sake of argument, we're just gonna drop a audio track from Adobe stock over here, and then we would click over here to buy and license that. But here, what we can see is we can see in this area, and we'll just find an area where I'm talking. Let's see. That's not where I'm talking. Let's find it here. Okay. So we can see an area where I'm talking, and you can see that the music is very close in level to my speaking, so it would probably overpower it. Therefore, because of that, so we'll want to pull it down because this one is loud. So because this one's a little louder, we're going to pull it down to here. You want to play this by ear or visually. My thing is, I want the loudness even from a visual scale. I want my voice, which I'm going to boost here without clipping it. So now I'm making sure that the final output isn't clipping because it's not going into the red. So it's not clipping and it's not over peaking. And the main key is that I want the audio track, which in this case is audio 3 here, to not overpower my voice and to be about maybe less than like be half of my voice most of the time. Now, usually I can just do -22 and that would be enough. But so we're going to delete this audio track and we're going to pick a different audio track. And you can see that depending on the audio track you pick, depending on the audio track you pick, this depends on whether or not it would be overpowering at different levels, which is why instead of a hard or fast rule, see, because this is probably good enough at -22. The other one needed to be -33, but this one's probably enough at -22 or -24. Some will be enough at -18 to not overpower. So you have to always, instead of using a hard or fast rule, you'll always have to just play it by ear. Now, there's also a trick that you can use, which will also change what the setting would be, is you could use a preset on the music. And a trick that I use is instead of using the music preset, I'll select the music and then I will instead pick ambiance and I'll just turn the setting to room tone. And by doing that, it will actually make the music quiet enough on its own usually without me having to really do much of anything because I've now set the preset to room tone. And it does most of the work for me. So that is a trick, is just to use the room ambiance preset, and that'll do most of the work. You can also turn on ducking, and with ducking, it'll make sure that it pulls itself out of areas that are too loud. Now, also again, you want to look at the final output, and you want to make sure that you're not hitting the red for the final mix, and that'll be good. So we have a super chat question. Road 66 Road Relics. I do outdoor videos, often moving using my mic now to cut down on wind noise for background noise. That happens during shooting. Also editing recommendations for video editing outdoor footage. Actually, for outdoor, I would recommend. Do I have it here? Oh wait, it's in my camera bag. Give me 1 second. Um, yeah. For outdoor shooting, okay. So if you're shooting outdoors, we'll just go to me here for a second. Actually, and we'll. Okay, so if you're shooting outdoors specifically, if you're shooting outdoors specifically and you want good quality audio, I recommend just getting the DJI mic version 2. It also has internal recording. This will cost you money. This will cost you about $360. Now, you could get the mic minis, which do not have internal recording, but they are very, very good. And 2 of those will cost you $169. You get the mic version 2, in my opinion, because you get the receiver that can go into a DSLR camera, and you get these. Now, if you do outdoors, a lot of stuff, you also can use something more sophisticated like this. It'll be more expensive. It's for Sony cameras, and it's an XLR outdoor microphone, and you would use a windscreen on it up close. So this could be another tool. This is a handle there. But the other thing is, if you're outdoors, let's see here. Where did I put it? Well, this is a good accessory anyway, but we'll get to that in a minute. There's one thing I'm looking for. I know it's here somewhere. Ah. My OCD kicked in and I wanted to find my what do you call it? My GoPro Action 5 uh not GoPro, sorry, DJI Action 5. It's kind of like a GoPro to make this point, but we'll use take the Osmo 3 here to make this point. The Osmo 3 can also connect with these microphones. Um, and so for outdoor, it can connect with these wireless microphones. Now, there is a mini in addition to the DJI Mic 2s. You could use the DJI Mic Mini instead, which is about $200 cheaper, but it doesn't have the internal recording. However, the DJI Mic Mini is newer, it's small, and in both cases, you can have these dead cats on it. You can have these basically these wind screens on it. So very tiny. You can see how tiny. Okay. So you have that, and these will allow you to get good audio outdoors. Same thing for the mic mini, sorry, the mic version 2, and you can also clip this windscreen on that, and this will give you good audio as well. So both of these have that capability, and that would give you good quality audio. They also have a what do you call it? They have a magnetic attachment to be able to clip onto your clothing, motorcycle helmet, anything you could need there. So they do have that capability as well. So the way it clips on is basically just like this. And so it can record you really well, and it's got AI noise canceling as well. In addition to the fact you can use a windscreen with it. So very convenient, easy to travel, and charging cases for those. So those are the DJI Mic Minis. But the good thing about these is also they are compatible with this other device. This is an Osmo, so if you're doing outdoor on the road stuff, you can get good video footage with this. But there is an Osmo Pocket Action 5 camera that is basically a newer, better version of a GoPro, and it even has a selfie screen on it. That's going to run you about maybe $300 for that. This device is about $600, but it's an all-in-one camera, and you have the audio on top of it. So you have this wireless audio setup. With the DJI mics, you also could just for 20 bucks get this man on the street style microphone that lets you clip it in here. And so you would just take the magnet off and you would clip this in here, and this becomes a man on street mic. You put this over it, you hit record or sync up with your input device, whether that's your phone, your other camera, the receiver, whatever it is, and then you've got a perfect man on a street camera. So again, this is the kind of thing that I use. I did put some money into this, but if you buy this once, you buy it and you're once forever, and that will stop a lot of your problems if you're doing outdoor content and you're doing stuff on the road. Then that'd be the direction that you want to go in. So and again, I had to step off camera to go get this stuff out of my camera bag to show you, because it's better to show you than to tell you. So if like you want to, the reason I bring this up in the middle of our editing session here is because you want to get good quality video and audio going in. You do not want to rely on the ability of trying to fix these things in post, because it usually doesn't work to fix it in post. Garbage in, garbage out. The machine cannot turn lead into gold. It's there to try to save you a little bit if mistakes are minor and forgivable. So that's why I spent all the money that I did into a lot of these things, is to learn this stuff and to try to get it right. And even when you spend the money, if you physically goof or get something wrong or get a cable wrong or get a cable loose, or you don't test the signal, it's a problem. But you can cut 90% of the wind noise by just using a wind screen on the microphones. Y'all just shooting with your camera, raw dogging with your camera, and not using a good microphone input is most of y'all's problems with audio, because you all believe, oh, I'll just fix it in post. Oh, I'll just fix it in post. This is not movie magic. It's the real world. In the real world, audio has to be good going in or it's going to be trash coming out, even with help from the computer. There's no way to save absolutely garbage trash audio. The best thing that you guys can do is make sure that you put your money, and it's going to be a few $100s if you're doing outdoor stuff. It's going to be 169 to 300, $400 to get the audio right. Even the audio that you're hearing from me right now, I'm having to use a $500 microphone. I could get away with it with a $169 microphone, but that's only because that microphone's new technology and it's USB Type C. Um, so the audio going in has to be right because garbage in, garbage out, and it matters. So once you invest in the audio, immediately your videos are more watchable, you have better retention, you have better watch time, people enjoy them more, and you do have to put the money into the audio. So the microphones, absolutely worth whatever you have to spend on them. And then you have to learn to use them properly. That's the thing with that. And I'm going nuts here trying to figure out where the hell I put my um action cam and just hoping that nobody ended up stealing it while I was at the conference. I doubt that's the case, but it's probably just me putting it in the wrong slot in this bag. Oh, also to give you an understanding of the $160 microphone, this is the $160 microphone that is the Shure MV6 and is comparable to my Shure SM7 DB here, um, which is basically the Joe Rogan style microphone. So again, Shure microphones are really good. This one is the MV6, which they recommend a lot for like gaming and stuff like that. So this works out really well, and it's all USB type C. But yeah, the DJI stuff is great because it works with a. Oh, I know it is. I bet you my DJI is in my other bag. I hope it is anyway. Um, I'll find it later. But the point is, yeah, garbage in, garbage out. So you can't just call yourself fixing that in post. When is a good time to upgrade from a USB mic to an XLR? I have a mic that does both, but I only use USB now. If you want to throw it, that's a great question. If you want to throw it through a soundboard and mixer, then use an XLR. Also, it's debatable which one is better or cleaner. I would argue that microphones that use phantom power, you want to run it through XLR. The Shure SM7B and DB are that. Most of you probably, if you just get the Shure MV6, which is USB Type C, most of you, for most of your YouTube career, if you're shooting from a desk, it's all you will need, and you don't need to upgrade to XLR ever and make your life more complicated and learn more audio than that. For most of you, you don't need to do it at all. So I don't think there's a situation, especially if you're doing gaming, to ever worry about it. But let's get back into Premiere. So here in Premiere, like I've shown you that, if you want to extend and loop an audio track, there is an ability to do that. I talk about it in my tutorial. You use the remix tool, not the rate stretch tool, but the remix tool. You drag it to the duration of your track, and Adobe will do the rest. And then if it doesn't get it exactly, then after that, you just trim, and that'll take care of most of it. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to lock audio track 3 because we're going to do something really cool here in Adobe. We're going to go to our text window, and we're going to do something really cool. We're going to transcribe the audio of this video, and then we're going to cut all the pauses and dead air, and it's going to do all of our clipping of this video for us instantly. So you can see it's going to take a few seconds here, but it is going to clip this auto magically for us. In fact, while it's doing that, I think I'll try and see if I can at least grab my other bag and see if I can look for this mic. Not this mic, this other camera. All right. So Adobe did that pretty quickly, as you can see here, and we have a full transcription of our video, and we can edit this video by text, and it will delete anything we highlight and choose to delete. It will actually delete that whole section of our entire video. Now, what we can do is we can also search and filter for filler words, pauses, individual speakers. So text-based editing from the transcript is amazing in Adobe. And so what we can do here is if we click pauses, it will identify all the pauses in this entire 15-minute video. And if we then decide to click delete, we can say delete all, and it will basically edit our entire video for us and do all the jump cuts. Now we will want to zoom in on this and refine this and find areas where it messed up, or where we want to leave certain things in, or where it trimmed too tightly, or it didn't get certain things, or understand what we were trying to do. And then we can do things like ripple delete, and it'll clean up all of that. So as you can see, it does all of my jump cuts for me, and I can see everything and where it's edited. And then I could set markers based on what it says in the editing and choose where I want to add things in. So we've done all of our, most of our rough cut of our edit has been done for us, and we can go through the transcript and the video and see how accurate it is. And then our video is basically done. Now, the reason we locked the audio track is we didn't want it to cut anything of the audio track for us. And we're just going to do that ourselves to trim the audio track now that we know how long the video is actually going to be. And so now our audio track will match the length of our video, but it's our cut down video. And you can see that cut our 15-minute video down to a 13-minute and 25-second video. So all of the dead air in our video is basically gone. And we could still go back and manually edit anything we want. So this is why you want to pay for Premiere Pro or the paid versions of DaVinci Resolve. I do not believe that Final Cut Pro can do this, but as you can see, this might have taken somebody an agonizing amount of time to edit in a 15-minute video. This rough cut was done for us in mere seconds. And now going back and cleaning up and trimming this would not be some great crucible. Now, if we still want to be able to adjust color for our entire video without having to do it cut by cut now that we have this, or without doing select all, what we can do is we can add a new bin item called an adjustment layer. And so we can make an adjustment layer, drag that to our track, extend it over the length of our timeline. And now anything we do here in the essential color panel will now affect every scene that it sits above here. So as you can see, changing the temperature is changing all that. So again, if we need to do any stylistic color grade to all of the footage under this, after we've done our correcting, we can do that now. So we can do that. We can apply a LUT. I don't think a LUT is going to help us. I think it's going to hurt us here. I don't think there's a LUT we can pick that would be good for this, if I'm being honest. Even if we tone down the intensity of the LUT, I don't think any of it would help. So, like I said, I do not think there's a LUT that we could use or would want to use that helps this, but it depends on how you shot your footage. If I had shot this in log, then yes, it would matter. Um, can Adobe add text captions to videos? Once I am done with the complete video, I could if I wanted to, once I'm done with the complete video. I don't recommend doing it before, but yes, it can, because you can go here in the text panel and there's a thing that says closed captions, and you can create captions for the video. I'll just show you that here so you guys can see it. And there, it creates closed captions on the video, just like that. So instant closed captions on your video right there in Adobe Premiere Pro. So you would have that. You also can export those captions as an SRT file and then upload an accurate SRT file to YouTube. You can also do spell check settings, and you can also do find replace here for words you know you want to correct that are custom. So you can do all of that right there and it'll be fine. So closed captions, text transcription based editing, automatic rough cuts. Here we even have the ability to do extra color grading after our color correct. We've done our adding background music to this. This is most of a video for a lot of you, aside from adding in B-roll and motion graphics. For most of you, your video at this point would be like 80% done. I mean, or am I wrong about that? For most of you, is this not basically your video being 80% done now? So let's see here. Mostly yes, and I do a lot of text overlay because of the topic. Yeah, so the text overlays, I'm going to show you guys actually this. And by the way, we can turn off the subtitles by just making it not visible as a layer, and it won't export visibly if we do that. If we wanted to, if that's something we desire. Now for the text thing, we can just go here to, let's see. Essential sound. There's a such thing called, they usually called it the essential graphics panel. They may have changed the name to just be graphics templates yeah, they changed the name of the essential graphics panel to graphic templates to make it easier on you guys, I guess. So I'm going to drag this panel so you can see it more clearly. So I have a bunch of presets in here. But it's crazy what you can get and what it'll do for you with Essential Graphics. Now you can also purchase some of these graphics through Adobe Stock up here, but I have a bunch of them already that I've purchased from Adobe Stock and from other places. Um, I can do all kinds of crazy things with this as a result of that. But when I need text graphics, let's say I want to throw text on the screen here. Let's see. Probably just go with my standard. So let's say I want to throw my standard how-to graphics on the screen, like I usually do in my videos, and give it a minute here. it will make this motion animated text for me and do all the work that you would normally do in Adobe After Effects. It'll do all of that for me, and I can customize the text here. So the way it starts is I'm talking, and here's the text on the screen. Now, if I wanted this to scale to the fact that this is 4K, I will right click on this and scale to frame size so it gets bigger. But you may have noticed, oh, this is having like a visibility issue. And the thing is, in effects, there is a drop shadow here, but I don't think it's actually very good. And if we go to effect controls, and we go to their drop shadow, the default of it is not great. Let's bring that down. So my trick to this usually is if one drop shadow doesn't cut it, then another one will. So I'll double down, so to speak. And then I'll just make it a little bit different. And there, boom. So three drop shadows. Ah ha ha. So as you can see, having 3 drop shadows did the trick here. The other thing I would do with this though is in this graphic, we can edit the graphic parameters with regard to the text and everything else. But what I'm going to actually do is go to this part here for this text, and there is it's usually called anchor point. There's usually like a text anchor point, but if not, I'm not going to worry about it. What I'm just going to do is I'm just going to drag this thing holding shift and just drag it like straight down to make it where I want it to be on the screen. But usually you can manipulate this thing called anchor point. It's depending on the version of the software. So now it comes in. Now, if I want to change the text, I just go over here to text 1, text 2, and I'll go how to edit videos. And then text 2, a guide to editing on YouTube. And so I do this, and then I literally now have my custom motion graphics text in seconds where I want it to be, how I want it to go. And then I can always adjust the duration. If I shorten this duration by dragging here, it'll exit the animation sooner so I can get the timing right. So if I don't want it up there forever, it gets to the point and just exit off there. So there are all kinds of ways to do that. And like I said, if you're gonna put text on screen, I use drop shadows. Usually one drop shadow doesn't cover it. So I just drag the effect on there 3 times or copy and paste it 3 times onto the asset. And I adjust the values to make it pop a little bit more. And I'm probably gonna make a custom preset that does that for you. But boom, this gets you very simple to the result that you want very quickly. So as you can see in our editing tutorial here, we've already added background music, color correction, color grading, audio correction, and now motion graphics text. And if you wanted closed captions, you have them, or you can export them without them being visible on your video, and YouTube will add the closed captions for people who turn them on, turn them off. So you can do that, and this gets you edited very quickly. We also used Adobe's AI tool and transcription. We used the transcription with the text editing tool to get us to a point to where we edited by the transcription and all of our rough cutting is done for us. And now we could just do a pass through of the video, reading the script or listening to it or watching it to see if it is indeed correct, and then we can just edit out or shorten up or take the parts that we still don't want, but we at least eliminated all of the pauses. Now we could go and search this, and if there was something we did to signal ourselves that we don't like this take, or we redid the take or whatever, we could look for that here in the text edit in the transcript, and we could just edit those things out by selecting it and deleting it. So this would basically give us our video here. The only major thing we'd have to add is any additional B-roll footage that we want. So if we had footage from something else that we wanted to include for whatever reason, if there was additional footage that made sense to put into our video for whatever reason, that's just some B-roll footage we wanted. Let's see. Give me 1 second. We would go here, select our B-roll footage into the preview window, and then we would select the footage in and out point that we want. You can use shortcut I, shortcut O for that. And so when we put this on our timeline, we can put it on track 2, or we could put it we could put it even under this track if it made sense. So that sits above video track 1, and then we transition to here, and then the motion graphics text can come above it if we want to. This is why I put the motion graphics text on layer 4 or 5 for that reason. Now, if I want to, I can also go to effects and have a transition to make this clean coming in and out. So for example, I would probably usually just use a simple wipe, as I'm known to do. And so what happens here is, actually, wait, I forgot to drag the wipe to the beginning and the end. So hang on. So I'll put the wipe here, and I'll probably just tighten that wipe up a little bit. And so what you'll see is you'll see the video transition to where there's a wipe. Sorry, that's an inset instead of a wipe. Excuse me. I wanted a wipe, not an inset. So give me a second here. I'll choose wipe as the transition, and I'll shorten the transition a little bit. And what you'll see is you'll see the video wipe, then you'll see the text come in. And so then you have that. If I want that to be a little cleaner, I'll just do it this way, so that as the text goes out, you also then have the scene change here. So the animation will stop, and then we'll have the transition wipe back to the A roll. So when you do that, that is effectively when you see now with everything you've seen here, this is more or less everything that you see in most of the YouTube videos you guys have ever watched. In the most of the YouTube videos all of you have ever watched, you've had these basic effects. You've had transitions, you've had background music, you've had motion graphics text that I just showed you. It's animated text. It's a preset in most of your software. You use Filmora, there are presets for animated text. Use Adobe Rush, there's presets for this. Use LumaFusion, use DaVinci Resolve, use Final Cut Pro. Motion graphics presets already exist without you having to learn any animation whatsoever. So that's basically what you would do here. The biggest thing for a lot of you that is going to take the majority of your time is actually inserting your B-roll. And a lot of you also take an agonizing amount of time choosing your music. My recommendation is for you guys, and you can use my link for Epidemic Sound if you want, or if you want licensed music that is on Spotify and the radio, you can use Licked. But my recommendation for you guys is frankly to just pick 10 songs to make the soundtrack for your YouTube channel for the next 12 weeks, the next quarter. A spring soundtrack, a summer soundtrack, a fall soundtrack, a winter soundtrack, whatever season it is. Make a soundtrack for the season. Make it 10 to 12 songs. If you're crazy, pick your favorite 16. Fine. And just use those as your background music for your audio tracks for the theme songs of your channel for the next season, for the next 3-4 months. Just do that. And then just make a new soundtrack every season, every basically 3 months, make a new soundtrack so that you stop agonizing over picking the perfect song. Pick songs that then are themes, and now you've narrowed your options of what your songs are that support your channel's background music. So you just do that, because now you're not wasting, most of you, the 10 hours you're spending editing a video, you're wasting 2 hours of it picking the music. That's your problem. So if you just use soundtracks, the decision is already made. You've eliminated decision creep. The same way I've chosen, y'all have seen this particular animation for the text in my videos all the time, because I said, okay, that's going to be the aesthetic of my videos from now on, is that when I'm going to do my motion animated text, most of the time, it's going to be this animated text. I found that, I locked it in, I was good with it, and it looks good and it fits my aesthetic and channel. So I just went with that. I'm not trying to be crazy fancy here. I decided that my default transition is I will use a wipe or I will use a whip. And so for the whip, the whip looks like this. So if I take off this wipe transition at the end, you all have seen this in my videos before. I'll use a whip transition and I'm going to shorten it up a little bit. And so what that looks like is we'll come in with a wipe. We'll do our animated text here, but we'll end with a whip, and the whip will just go like that. And then the thing that I would do is, from a sound design standpoint, I can go here into Essential Sound, and I can go to Effects, and I can look for a whip or a whoosh. Okay, cool. So they have whip and whoosh effects. So what I would do is, for sound effects, I would get the timing. And so since this is where the beginning of the whoosh effect happens, that's the timing, I would go here and I would drag this to like my audio track 4, and I would match this and play it largely by sight and by sound, and I would match the whoosh sound effect to the visual timing of the whoosh. So the transition there, and that's the sound design. So now you have a video that has color correcting, an adjustment layer for color grading, B-roll, motion graphics text, transcripts if you want the transcripts, and also subtitles if you want those, option to turn them on or off. And you now have sound design, because now you're timing your sound effects to your transitions, and you have transitions. So at this point, you have all of the basic features of every big YouTuber. And that's it. You have everything a big YouTuber has for the most part in a video. We started earlier with teaching you how to green screen if you wanted to do that. The main thing that you wouldn't have here is if your favorite YouTuber is using multicam edits, which I will do its own tutorial on, is if you're doing multicam edits, that would be the kind of the last thing left that you'd have to cover for your content. And then you'd have everything that a big YouTuber has. So, we have a question here. Question, is there a way to find out the best music for your demographic? Fantastic question. I would look at the tone of the music that the biggest creators, I would look at the 5 biggest creators in your niche, and I would look at what the tone and the emotional tone of the music that they use is, what the vibe is. I would look at the vibe of the 5 biggest YouTubers in your niche, and I either do what they're doing or I do the polar opposite. I either do exactly what the top 5 big guys are doing in my niche, or I do the total opposite direction. So I would find what the vibe of their music is among the biggest channels, and I either do what they're doing or the opposite, so that I'm the twist. I'm the, okay, if you don't like them, watch me. If you don't like those guys, watch me. So always think, by the way, in general with your content of, Okay, the biggest YouTuber in my niche, if they have 1 million subscribers, there's 200,000 people that don't like them. So what would those 200,000 people that don't like them actually like? And how can I contrast so I don't look like a clone of the person that they don't like? How can I do something to look like I'd be the total opposite of that, and be able to attract those people to my tribe? If this is a tribe they don't like to be in, what would make them want to be in mine? And the thing is, signaling that I'm different is easier than signaling that I'm better. So signaling that you're different can be easier than signaling that you're better. And if there's a proven group of people that dislike something and you signal that you're different than that thing that they dislike, you instantly become more visible and more attractive to them. You don't know what they think better is, but you do know what they don't like. And if you can signal that you're not that, then it's easier to attract. Does that make sense when I say that to y'all? So does that explanation makes sense, both in terms of your visuals, your vibe, and your aesthetics? Your visual, your vibe, your sounds, your aesthetics, all of it, that signaling that you're different is easier than signaling that you're better. So hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, going back to this, we've essentially shown you um everything you would need to do. Now we would just be doing more of this throughout our video, in terms of dropping B-roll from story blocks. So we'd probably, want to make a folder for our sound effects to bring in all of our sound effects. We'd want to make a folder for our B-roll. And in our case, it's probably going to be from, if we had it from story blocks, we'd have like a story blocks folder. And so we'd be able to go to that and just go, okay, I want to grab my Storyblocks footage, or I want to grab my sound effects, and we'd be able to organize this thing instead of just having a loose collective of footage in here. When you get your stuff from Adobe Stock, it generates a stock audio for you, and the same thing for your motion graphics. It generates a folder. So it's trying to teach you to be organized, to be honest here. So that would be really helpful. Katie, you're saying there's a bunch of people in the Google sheet. Okay. Asking questions. Let's see. Workshop questions. Um, Route 66 Relics. Does the Academy Pro group have a free trial? No, we don't do that because we respect the other members in the sense that someone has to be as committed as they are. Therefore, we do not have a free trial. And also, it keeps us from having any riffraff in the group. So we don't do that. Not that I don't trust you, but we can't trust everybody, and therefore we don't. So it is a paid membership group and a paywall. Everyone else paid to be in, so that's what we ask people to do. So there is no free trial there. But it's a smart question. Um, Veronica Ferris asked question. My niche is workout videos, but my dancing shorts have taken off. My audience resonates with them. Should I move forward with making content, making that content successful? So I'm not sure 100% about the phrasing of that question, but here's what I would say. If for your short form, the dancing videos have taken off for your short form, maybe you keep that in your short form, but you keep the workout videos as your long form videos, and you just keep them separate. Terry W says, how important is uploading in 4K? Terry says, how important is uploading in 4K? Excuse me. How important is uploading in 4K for talking head videos shot in 30 frames per second to future-proof your video? Is it really necessary or overkill with the changes happening in YouTube? It's less about YouTube and more about the fact that television sets are becoming a bigger part of the viewing experience. And for us talking about the fact that you're going to do talking head, but also do IRL reality TV style content, Terry, I would shoot in 4K. You know that most of my videos are shot in 4K. It is good for future proofing and it looks really, really bloody good on a television set. And more people are watching YouTube on the biggest screen they have. We always think about smartphone, but think about it. A lot of people spend a lot of their downtime on in their home. And when they watch stuff, they want to watch on the biggest screen, and more of the content that they like is on YouTube. So I would be designing for the big screen experience. Absolutely. Dr. Vibe Show says green screen pro or con. The green screen pro or con question is what I would say is if you have the access to do very good lighting and the content is not going to be extremely long, that way if you screw up, you can redo it. For videos under 8 minutes, green screen can make them a lot more interesting for that time period. And for talking head videos, green screen can make talking head videos more interesting. But you better be bloody sure that you know what you're doing and that you've understood lighting tutorials and that you've bought sufficient lighting for your green screen and a high quality green screen, or it's going to look amateurish and jank. If you can't make green screen look good, it's best not to bother. And it's good to take some time to learn it and to practice so that you feel confident that you can do it well. Geek Media Center says, will you go over retention editing in the first 30 seconds? For example, I try to keep my clips to only 2 to 3 seconds. I put dynamic subtitles, short audio tracks to evoke emotion, excitement. Well, Geek Media Center, when it comes to gaming, you're doing everything right, and you're not having a big retention drop off, to my knowledge, in the first 30 seconds of your videos. You're doing fine on the view duration. So that's the retention editing for the first 30 seconds. For other people, if they're not doing gaming, they don't need to do it as aggressively as that per se, as what you're doing. I would say that now, instead of aggressively editing for the first 30 seconds, I think your delivery and your hook and your emotional energy, if you're on camera talking head, it's not the editing that needs to be aggressive in the first 30 seconds. It's in the first 2 to 8 seconds. The delivery needs to be strong, confident, bold, and engaging, and make sure people know that they're in the right place. And it needs some bold declarative statement. Like, so for example, instead of, oh, today I'm going to teach you how to grow a YouTube channel, I would go, when I was a small YouTuber, I actually grew from 0 to 100,000 subscribers in 14 months. Well, no, sorry. When I was a small YouTuber, I grew from 20 to 100,000 subscribers in 14 months. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to take every struggling YouTuber that is under 20,000 subscribers and teach you how you can actually start growing your channel, get off the YouTube struggle bus. And while we're at it, let's see if we can figure out how you can make some money. That's a video that if you tuned in to the first 5 to 8 seconds of that video, you don't want to click off right away. And now you want to know if I'm full of crap. So like that's why the editing is not more important than the delivery. The editing is not more important than me giving that delivery while holding a silver play button in my hand for social proof. So the thing is, there are editing things that can help enhance that, but they're not even necessary if the delivery is strong. So the thing is, it's about hooks. Now, for those of you who are faceless channels, like a gaming channel like Geek Media Center, you have to rely on editing to make your hooks stronger and have a visual component that drives dynamicism into, you have to be dynamic in the video. And so if you're a faceless channel, you rely on the editing to carry you for that. But if you're on camera, the editing doesn't have to be aggressive to accomplish that same mission. The delivery has to be strong. So the delivery, the hook, the emotional stakes, the open curiosity loop, strong declarative statements, strong opinions, hot takes, you know, like if you were coming out swinging, if you were like a politics channel, you have to be in everything like that. Tariffs are trash and the stock market is on fire and I'm ready to let the burn. I'm ready to burn it all down. And I'm going to tell you why. Now that's a strong opinion, right? It's not my opinion, but that's a strong opinion. Someone could lead with that, and you're like, who is this jerkwad? And then you either want to watch the video to argue with the people in the comments, or because your point of view is being validated. You have to create stakes and emotional tension. Some people do that with editing. I would say that editing to do that is going out the window for most channels going forward, and that the strongest way to do it is with delivery. I think over editing aggressively is going out the window, and the MrBeast editing style is dead for most channels that wanted to copy and ape his product, because I think people are tired of it, and I think people are tired of TikTok, of YouTube. I think people are tired of YouTube resembling TikTok. They come to YouTube to watch YouTube style content, not TikTok style content. But in gaming, it's a little different. So in gaming, you have to rely on the editing. Let's see. I'm going in chronological order, so I will be getting to the super chats. Right now, I'm just going in chronological order because I'm behind. So that's the key. Or at least the way they are in the sheet. Let's see. Beanie Draws asks, interesting. Will you include much about camera mounting and lighting mounts regarding the walk and talk? I will, because it's a hardware component, so I will talk about that. It's necessary. Um, Geekman says, do you think you could put together a how to edit video game content for YouTube type of video, or is it um too out of my own niche to try? Geek says you can scratch this one if you want. It's too specific, and most of my audience is, I've worked with a lot of gaming channels. I work with Supercell creators for Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, Brawl Stars, and Squad Busters, and Heyday, and those kind of things. And I understand and I know the video game editing thing, but honestly, there are channels I can point you to that only focus on that. And Finzar is probably a better channel to watch for that than I am, even though I can coach and teach around it, and I've done it successfully. But it's too niche of a thing, and it also will attract largely not the audience, because like you're an exception, Geek Media Center, where you're the right age for my content, that my audience avatar, the kind of person I want in my tribe. And it's no offense to younger Gen Z, but younger Gen Z, Gen Alpha types, they mostly will not take what I do as seriously because I'm not a viral content creator, and that's fine. They also don't care about money as much as me because they don't have a mortgage to pay. So they just won't care about my content. So making a gaming video on editing without being a gaming channel is a throwaway on my channel. It won't get views, and it'll get more criticism than it will praise, no matter how accurate the information is. So if we ever do it, it might end up being something that is in the Academy membership if we ever do it. But I will just probably publicly not chase or touch how to do gaming content, because mostly it will attract an audience of younger creators that aren't mature enough for the conversations that we want to have. And I'm sorry that that's the case, because I know a lot of really great people in the gaming community that are mature, thoughtful, they have a business mindset, and it's great. And I'm not saying all gamers, hashtag not all gamers, but that's just how that content on YouTube works. And it's just not worth it to pursue it for me. There are people who are devoted to that. And one day I'm happy to train a YouTube coach to do their own channel that's just gaming. If I have my way, I will eventually just train a YouTube coach for every niche, so that every creator has someone that's in their niche that has made their content, grew their content, their style of content to 100,000 subscribers, and can teach it. And then we can stop the biggest problem in YouTube, which is not applying to them. Because then they can say, here's the baseline advice that applies to everybody, and then here's what's specific to my niche, and they could watch both of those things. And that's usually the real answer. The problem is there just are not enough YouTube creators that focus on, here's YouTube coaching for beauty channels, here's YouTube coaching for gaming channels. Um, and I would say that to a degree, um, there are just some communities that believe in coaching, and there are some communities that don't. Question: when you're editing footage, do you make it a habit to lower your preview panel to half or 1/4 quality? Normally I have to because my files are several gigabytes and bog down the software. Oh, with mine, I'm on the M4 Mac. I'm on the M4 Mac. I don't have to do anything because with the M4 Mac, the hardware is so good. I don't have to scale down anything hardly. I barely even bother with my proxy workflow. Even while I was streaming for you guys, I'm streaming and everything here is in full quality and I can do full playback because the Mac 4 is that the M4 Mac is that good. So I haven't had to worry about it. But that's also what happens when you're on the newest hardware. If you can't afford to be on the newest hardware, absolutely scale this down to 1/2 or 1/4 or something like that, or use proxy files in general. But that's what I would say. Scale train station asked, which microphones connect to the one receiver? Is it DJI, Rode, or something else? It's DJI. So you want to use the DJI as a whole ecosystem. So the DJI ecosystem works with these microphones. It works with the DJI cameras. It works with the receivers, with the charger. So it's convenient to charge. So it's always charged. You can get fast magnetic charging out of these. So it's great. It also works with the gimbals. So it works with the gimbals as well. Um, in fact, this is a gimbal for the phone and it works with this as well. And then this piece is a motion tracker and an audio receiver. This works with the minis. So you want the minis for that. So the minis for most people, for most of y'all, the minis are 169 and you get two of them and a receiver and the charging case for 169. For most of you, this is the best bang for your buck. And then for 169, you can also get this, which turns your phone into a studio. This is the Osmo 7P, 7 Pro. So it turns your phone into a studio because you slap your phone in here in the gimbal, it stabilizes it. This piece becomes your motion tracker. It also becomes your light in dark settings. So it has that ability. Um, and it can rotate up and down and sideways, and it can rotate. If I didn't have it locked right now. But yeah, it can rotate when you put in the mode for that. So it does all of that. It'll work with the mic minis, sync to it. It'll plug in via USB-C to your phone. So you want a USB-C type phone, and it'll do everything you want and need it to do, and you'll have a perfect studio with your phone. And this is how I'm probably going to do the studio production live stream with mostly this, but controlled through StreamYard, so I can switch back to my desk whenever I want to. And I'll just use continuity camera through Apple. That's the other thing about the Apple ecosystem to do that. So this is that with regard to a gimbal, and it will track motion and follow you, and it'll do all of those things. So that's why I utilize it, is for that. Great for mobile content creation at events, conferences, or IRL streaming. So there's that. And then DJI ecosystem. And then for the big camera, I use the RS4 Mini and this mount for it. And this can do horizontal and vertical mounting. And then with that, I just use the DJI Mic 2s with the receiver on the camera, and that gets the job done. So there's that. And then if I wanted to, let's see here. And you can put a, nope, that's not it. You can put a mini tripod expansion on this to stabilize it, or you can mount it to a regular tripod. But you can also buy this $20 mini tripod for the bottom, and it mounts and it does all the things, and it does its own calibration, so it does all the things. So you can use that, and then with its motion tracker accessory here, you would be able to also then have it follow you around, and it will do all of that. Again, also USB Type-C. So that device there. So very powerful tool. So yeah, DJI ecosystem. Also, I use the DJI drones. So I use the DJI drones as well. We have Salon Guy. Salon Guy says, "Hey bro, I have a 4-cam setup in my studio, but it's a pain to color match. Do you think it's worth the pain in post to showcase 4 camera angles?" So what I would do is, to avoid a lot of the problems with color matching, is I'd get it right in camera. And you, depending on your cameras, if you're using the Sony cameras, you can actually put the same LUT into the cameras via USB or even via the memory card. You put the same LUT into the Sony cameras, put the same LUT in all the cameras, and actually have the color grade and color matching done in camera via just using the same LUT. Also, I would shoot and match the color profile of all the cameras at the same time. The answer to that may also be to shoot in log 3 for all the cameras. So I would shoot in log 3 or shoot in Cinetone in all the cameras. And if you shoot in log 3 or Cinetone in all the cameras, then color matching and color grading becomes a one-click process for the most part if you do that. So that's how I would address that if I were in your situation. The main thing I do is I just program exact matching settings in all of my cameras. And I also use the same lens ecosystem, so I'm able to really match everything. In many cases, all of my cameras might be the same model, or at least they're on the same firmware. And then the color matching is a lot easier. So that's how I do it when I do a multicam for my podcast interviews. When I do my podcast interviews, that's how I try to do it. And so that's how I would approach it in your situation. So yeah, Route 66, I think we did answer the question for Route 66 of, yeah, if you have the music that you want to find in your niche, you find what the top 5 people in your niche are doing for their music, and you find the vibe of that, and you can either choose to match that or you can contrast that and do the opposite of them. Question from Route 66, will Adobe text caption add text captions to the video? Yes, if you add them like we showed you in Premiere Pro, and you have the option of making them visible or not visible. Once you do your transcription in the text tab here for your text editing, you can do that, and you can do the captions. And we can make the captions visible or invisible, but also we can export them as SRT files. As long as we have them here, we can export them as SRT files, upload that to YouTube, and have accurate text. You can export them as SRT files or text files, and then run them through any AI program you want, and then have it read your AI transcription, and then you can have it convert that to articles for you, pull questions, pull timestamps, do any of that. Do I think that the 4 camera angles help retention? It can make it more premium, but depending on the details of it, it may not help retention. You are getting retention-based videos without doing 4 camera angles. So again, you can do it to make your stuff, you can do your camera angles to make your stuff more unique and stand out. But retention, there's plenty of people in your niche that don't use 4 camera angles and don't go through all of that, and their content performs fine in terms of retention. That's also not what people necessarily click the videos on for. Now, you could also, with your editing being better and your camera angle production being better, it could make more people come back to your channel. While initial views will all be topic, title, thumbnail, and timing, returning viewers can be because of your editing and can be because of your production and can be because you showed them that your videos look unique and different and that they can only find that content on your channel. So that's another way to be a destination channel. After you win the click, if your content looks and feels different than someone else's, it's easier to turn that into a repeat viewer because they can't get that somewhere else. That's why sometimes being different is more important and easier to signal than being better. So, like I said, signaling that you are different and unique and worth rewatching is more important and easier than signaling better, because sometimes what is better? What is better? Better is really, really hard to signal and can be subjective, right? But different is actually much easier to signal, much easier to qualify, and different is much less subjective. Different is much less subjective. That's why we sometimes say you've heard the phrase different is better than better. Well, that's why different is better than better. Something I do differently that you all are experiencing and coming back for is, wow, Roberto's going to do a YouTube presentation. He's going to give us slides. He's going to give us the ability to download the slides so we can keep the information. So if we can't remember something, we can reference it more easily. He's got a great mod team. That's something we may not have before in chat. They're keeping track of questions. They're getting people engaged in feedback. Oh, wow. He'll stream on any platform that I want to watch on for whatever reason. He'll do high-end production, good audio. He'll have different cameras and he'll have them for different reasons. He will break out his gear toolbox and show it to us in the from the widescreen angle from camera 3. He'll do camera 2 and make eye contact while he's doing the chat sometimes. Oh, he'll do camera 1 and look direct to camera, things like that. Oh, he'll do software and hardware switching for screen shares. I do these things because if I get you to watch my content, signaling that's different and you will not get this experience watching another channel is a way to turn you into a repeat viewer and to turn you into a replay viewer. So sometimes it's very hard to know what better means, but it's very easy to know what different means. So if I have to choose between better and different, it's easier to be different and let that be my signal booster than trying to make better my signal booster, because better is way too subjective and different is easier to signal. It's easier to wear a red shirt than to get taller. I can't be taller. I can't be 6 feet tall, but I can wear a red shirt. I can wear a cool hat. I can wear a name brand. I could wear a fancy watch. I can strap a camera around my neck. And now I'm different. This used to work for me back in the day because when I would go to the bars and nightclubs, I was also a photographer and I was trying to also get the business of the manager. And the thing is, I would get approached and get people talk to me, and I would have girls talk to me because I was the cameraman for the event, or they'd want me to make sure I take a picture of them and stuff like that. And then there's a reason to talk for them. There's a reason to show them the picture. So now I have something that you can't have just by being tall, because now there might be a bunch of tall guys. I'm the only one with a camera. So different is better than better. Different is a higher signal boost at an easier threshold than being better. Better, hard to qualify what's better and what matters more and what matters most. Different is an instant signal booster, though. Is a Jake Tran editing style still good for an AI audience wanting to try deeper dive video while balancing daily views? Jake Tran style video, not for dailies, but if you wanted to do one once a week, then you could try that, and it could be a very high level thing that you could become known for, but I don't know that'd be your daily driver. So I think balancing a deep dive with daily news would be the answer. Yeah. What we used to do in marketing and advertising is we would say that we can win by contrast instead of by competing. So in marketing, the idea of signal boosting is you could signal boost by contrast easier than you can an objective metric. So an objective metric is hard to compete on. So instead of being an objective metric, we would just say this thing is not like the others. So instead of this thing is better than the others, it's just this thing is not like the others. So standing out is more important than trying to compete on a metric you'll lose at, because it's easier to be different than it is to be better. And it is a higher signal boost, and it is something we'll immediately recognize because we're humans. We're built on pattern recognition. So with pattern recognition being a default thing in our human psychology, contrasting with the norm and breaking the norm and being different would garner more attention, and it changes the conversation of why to watch you. Is now you don't have to compete in an arena where you would lose. Um, Tantrum Nose asked, "What's that called regarding the big gimbals?" They're DJI gimbals, so I'm not sure of the question. So it's DJI gimbals. It's the Osmo 7P and the DJI what was it? The RS4 Mini, and you have the Osmo 3 Pocket as a camera, and then you have the DJI Mic Minis and the DJI Mic version 2s. If you go to kit.co/Roberto, you will see that I have a mobile travel kit for influencers, and I have affiliate links for all of those things there. Mods, if you go to my kit.co um, page, you can pull the link for them for that, but you could also pull the link for my influencer mobile kit, and it has links to all the things I recommend. I think I even link to the power bank that I use, which is an Anchor power bank, which is incredibly powerful. It's a very good thing to have in your kit. It's very heavy though, so it will add a tremendous weight to your bag, but it will charge your MacBook Pro twice from 0 to 100 and still have the ability to charge your iPhone or one accessory beyond that. It's kit.co/Roberto Blake. It's kit.co/Roberto Blake. It's kit.co/Roberto Blake for the hardware. It also has there's also a bunch of stuff there for my book recommendations if people care about that. So yeah, so those would be things you would need to know regarding that. Now, I think we've covered basically the things you would actually need to know to quickly, competently, and capably make almost any video that a big YouTuber is making. Obviously, we didn't get into the editing techniques for gaming videos because that's very, very specific. And I don't have like footage to do that, nor would the context work in training for this particular workshop. However, the video editing techniques here for everyone who's on camera will work, and the technicals behind motion graphics text, changing color, sound design, sound effects, adding music, extending music tracks, and so on, adjusting audio levels, mixing, all of that would work for everybody, including the gamers. On the audio side, for audio track 4, I would probably make the sound effect slightly higher than the background music, but obviously still lower than your voice. So that would be the adjustment you'd make there. And like I said, you always want to make sure that you're checking the peaking on the mix master and not having that go into the red where it'll do clipping and the audio sound bad. So that is something to take into consideration there. But this is about what you want to look like. And remember, I have two audio track channels because for me, my microphone is picking up it was my non-wireless microphone. It was my stereo shotgun microphone. So since it was in stereo, track one is the left and track two is the right. So I had to do those. And then like I said, we did our audio effects for noise reduction here and for adding bass to the voice using the single band and using a single band compressor and going to voice thickener for the effect to add some bass to the voice. So again, effectively, if you do this, Adobe cuts your YouTube video for you. You can use the text editor to refine and tweak anything and to find and search for different things here. And then also, if you want to do a rough pass, you could use markers and say, oh, I want to add an effect or B-roll here. And so you could just use shortcut M throughout the timeline and place markers for yourself to remind yourself, hey, let me go here. And what I would do is I would combine this with the text effect is I would be scrubbing my timeline and looking through with the text effect and scrubbing the timeline, sorry, not text effect, the text panel, and going through the transcript and looking for where I say certain words or certain things, then I would set markers so that I can remind myself that that's where I want to look to drop B-roll. And then using the text, I'll know what B-roll I want to drop over there. So I'll just grab that and then I'll plug it in and so on and so forth. And so then I can do my editing much more effectively and quickly. And we showed you how using the filter feature and the search feature, we found all the pauses, got rid of all the dead air in our video, and so on and so forth. And like I said, you can take away the subtitles because if you import the subtitles, YouTube will let someone turn them on and off. If you burn them in, your audience can't turn the subtitles on and off, and it can affect the look, and you don't want that. Plus, you want YouTube to do it because it can also do it in multiple languages. So you don't usually want to burn in your subtitles. If you want to use text effects, just use text effects like we said here. And we can do that with the graphics template panel in Premiere. There'll be a version of this in DaVinci and in Final Cut and Filmora. There'll always be animated graphics templates in there. So just drop them in and then edit them to your heart's content. So Geek Media Central says, at the beginning of the workshop, you mentioned that in general, it takes someone 3 to 5 years to become a successful content creator. Is there any way to cut that down? I'm exactly 1 year in at 1,600 subscribers. Systems do it. Usually you need to get to 10,000 subscribers before you know what is working because you've now successfully got 10,000 subscribers. And by then you usually also have figured out how to make 500 to $1,000 a month at least once, if not consistently. So that's your framework of, okay, now I can analyze what it take me to learn, because the big thing is the learning curve, right? You can cut the 3 to 5 years if you master your video editing software in 12 weeks. If you can master your video editing software in 12 weeks and learn the basic techniques that we talked about throughout the workshop and say, I will focus on learning my video editing software in 12 weeks. I will focus on learning Photoshop in 2 to 4 weeks, good enough to make the highest quality thumbnails that my niche has. Then you've now figured out, if you figure out the thumbnails, you now have the ability to probably get the views, especially if you figure out titles as well. If you figure out titles and thumbnails and you spend a month just studying how to be better at the thumbnails and maybe a month refining and getting better at your titles or using ChatGPT to help you or using my creator prompts from ChatGPT to help you, then okay, you've locked in titles and thumbnails. That's going to increase your views significantly. If you lock in for 4 to 12 weeks and get your video editing skills, not every time you have to upload a video, but you've mastered, oh, I know how to do this technique. I know how to do this technique. I know when to do this technique. I know why to do it. I got the audio locked in. You got all of that going for you. And you're getting good retention on your videos. And people are commenting on your videos and you have a good subscriber conversion rate to where 1% or more of people that watch the videos convert to subscribers that were new viewers of the channel. If you're getting that and you get to 10,000, you can analyze your data, looked at what performed, the top 20% of things that worked, and now you can build a system on what is working and turn that into a system that works for every upload going forward for the most part, or 80% of the uploads or 50% of the uploads going forward. That will make you wildly efficient because 80% of your 10,000 subscribers and all of your views came from the top 20% of your content. Turning the top 20% of your content into the main 80% of your content is the answer. Then, but the thing is, the problem of why it takes 3 to 5 years is because everybody is doing this part-time when they start most of the time. So they are trying to do it and trying to learn it and working a full-time job. If you can cut your learning curve on technicals and you can cut, okay, I have mastered the camera and microphone that I shoot with. I have mastered the video editing software that I work on to where I can make a video as good as a channel with 100,000 to 1,000,000 subscribers in my niche. I know the techniques that they know. I know how to make that style of content. My thumbnail is as good as theirs. I know how to pick the right topics and I know what topics get those views and what titles get those views. If you dial that in and you learn that and you master that in under a year, the technicals, if you could get the technicals learned in a year, you can now build off of those technicals because they will be the elimination of the barrier to are you making something good and are you making what people want? Now your biggest problem is can you make enough of it to keep up and to grow? And your other issue is can you use your data and focus on what's growing you the fastest? If you then ruthlessly kill your emotions about the content, if I'm being honest, and then you make what grows your channel the fastest and not what you like, then you cut that curb. Most people are not willing to do that early. They want to keep making things they like and they have to get that out of their system, and that is fine. Because what you like to make and what your audience gives you the most attention for are not the same thing most of the time. There are a lucky few. If luck exists, which I don't believe in, luck is when who you like likes you back. And what you like likes you back and rewards you. That's luck. Everything else is skill. And what most people do is they learn to choose to like the thing that rewards them. They like the people that like them back. They like the work that pays that they learn to like the work that pays them the most. The thing they like doesn't usually reward most people or pay them the most. The people they like don't always like them back. That's friends, relatives, they're the people that they're pursuing romantically that like not everyone likes you back. Luck would be, oh, the thing I like actually likes me back. The thing I like is also the most financially rewarding thing for someone like me. That's luck. If you want to call anything luck, I would say that that's luck. Is that, oh, the thing that I like actually likes me back and works out for me and is healthy for me. That's what you would call, in my mind, that's the only luck I believe in, if anything. If anything, that's the only luck I believe in. What most people are is they are not lucky. Most people who succeed are pragmatic and strategic, and they decide to suck it up and say, if this is working, I'm just going to do it and learn to like it because I like what it gives me, and I'll just learn to like that more. I like this other thing, but this other thing, I like it, but it doesn't reward me. I like it, but I suffer or struggle to do it. I like it, but I'm bad at it. People who learn to like what they're good at, people who learn to like what likes them back or gives them attention, people who learn to like what makes them money, that's the majority of successful people. That's the majority of successful people. And YouTubers struggle because since they work a job that usually is just paying them and they don't like it, but they're dealing with it because it pays them well enough to keep their lifestyle. When they do YouTube, they only want to do what they like and they're okay in their mind with not being rewarded with it. But that's what keeps people a hobby creator because it's an outlet. If you want to be successful at something, a lot of times you have to learn to like what works if you want to transition from a hobby you enjoy to something that is giving you a reward. You have to like the thing that is working. A lot of people cannot reach that level, that emotional threshold to do that. That's the biggest barrier. If I was going to say there's a barrier to success on YouTube, it's not the algorithm, it's the emotions, the ego, and the personal struggles of the creator that hold them back. Um, so those would be the things that actually keep the majority of YouTubers from succeeding. Those YouTubers who succeed, a lot of people criticize them, call them sellouts, and say you're making content, not art. And there's some truth in it. There's some truth in it for a lot of those YouTubers, but they're winning. But they're winning. The biggest creators, and I'm not going to name names, but the biggest creators, they're not making art. They're not doing content they love. They're doing content based on it giving them 50 million views and upload. They would not make a video they like more and take 10 million views on a video they like more. They want the 50 million views, period. And they'd be very upset if they didn't get them. So that's what they focus on. Small YouTubers, bless their hearts, a lot of times, will know exactly what gives them 10,000 views, know exactly what gives them 20,000 views, and will make something they like more, knowing it's going to give them 1,000 to 5,000 views. But if they're going to spend their time doing something, they want to spend their time doing something they like because the 40-hour-a-week job already forces them to compromise and do things they don't like to get results. So that's the struggle, which is why I say the reason people break through that is usually because they get time off from the job they don't like, and then they're able to find a way to break through on YouTube because now they are not devoting the time, the mental energy, and the emotional energy 40 to 50 hours in a week to something they don't like. The more times they get to do that, the faster they tend to break through and find the rhythm and the right sweet spot of what they're making that people will respond to, that they enjoy enough to make really well. And so therein lies the struggle. And that's the biggest barrier to growing at a certain rate and speed in YouTube. Now, with me, the reason I didn't have to deal with that in the same way as other people is I was already a freelancer and delivered from the bondage of my 9 to 5 job. So since I was already a full-time freelancer, which means, yes, I was working 60 hours a week, but I was choosing the flex time of the 60 hours, which means sometimes it's a 2-hour day and sometimes it's a 12-hour day. So I was like, since I was on flex time as a freelancer and I could just do what I want, and the more I worked, the faster and more efficient I got. It never meant my pay goes down because I wasn't an hourly worker anymore. I wasn't on a wage. I was on a project-to-project basis or on a retainer. My money, time, effort ratio, my effort to earning ratio was something I mastered and I locked in. And I was able to say, okay, if I make this amount of effort, I'll make this amount of earnings. I will optimize for only getting these clients, or I'll prioritize my retainer clients. I'll knock this out. I'll do this, or, oh, you know what? If I just lock in for 4 hours, I'll turn this project around and get $1,000. I'll just lock in for 4 hours and get this because then I've made the money I need for the week. And now I have more free time to focus on other things. Okay, cool. So I would lock in for 4 hours, make the money I need for the week, and free up the entire 40 hours of the week. But I was a freelancer. I was in that position. You see what I'm saying? So since I had some variable control over how much money I could make in a week or a day, and I had control over how I spend my time in a week or a day, I had an ability in my 3-year cycle that most people do not have. I wouldn't call it a privilege because the anxiety of working for yourself is not a privilege when you start out and you leave your job. It's just nerve-wracking, to be honest with you. So, but it did give me the flexibility to do the things that could make me successful faster. That is why once I learned over 2 years how to get 20,000 subscribers, I was able to lock in the third year and grow from 20,000 to 100,000. And then every year after that for another 3 years, I grew by 100,000 and proved it wasn't a fluke. The thing that derailed me was COVID. Yeah. So for the workshops, we have 12 more. We have 6 more of these workshops to finish out our 12 weeks. Then I have to take a break from the workshops being themed workshops and then start a new curriculum. I have to make a new lesson plan. I have to make a new lesson plan and I have to figure out the logistics of things like the production workshop. We'll probably have some other type of themed workshop in between to offset me doing a production and a video making workshop because I have to figure out the logistics of streaming that in a way that makes sense and I have to test some things to do that. So it's not that we'll stop Wednesday streams, but we'll shift Wednesday streams to some other type of workshop, maybe a monetization series of some kind, or a YouTube for business series around all the things you need to know to set up your YouTube business properly. That's probably the next thing we'll do as workshops. I just have to make a new lesson plan while I also figure out the logistics of the production workshop. How do I feel about iMovie for editing on a brand new channel? If it's the easiest way for you to actually get a video out, then it's fine. But iMovie is really not the best thing, even at a free level, for you to be working on. And iMovie gives you bad habits. I think it's better to use Adobe Rush or to learn DaVinci Resolve if you need a free video editor as a new channel. DaVinci Resolve is technical, but you're better off learning it and getting very, very good editor habits. Or if you need something that you can do on your mobile device, Adobe Rush is better and it works on all platforms. And it'll work on desktop as well. And you can transfer to desktop when you want to move from your phone to desktop for a bigger screen experience and keep the project file consistent. It'll do that. So I would recommend either Adobe Rush or DaVinci Resolve if you're a new channel over iMovie any day of the week, because staying on iMovie and struggling through iMovie is why some of you are spending 10 hours to edit a video that should only take you 1 or 2 because of iMovie's limitations, because it's just there and because it's just free. Yep. Geek Media Central says you're so right. It's hard to make consistent content again and again. It kills a lot of the creativity, but it definitely works. Yeah. So the thing is, there's a lot of people whose thing is deep down in their heart, they want every video they make to feel like a work of art. But the thing is, art doesn't succeed on content on art doesn't succeed on YouTube, content does. There are exceptions to that don't disprove the rule. Content is what makes there are very few things that are considered art that made billions of dollars and became beloved by millions of people. Star Wars did it. Harry Potter did it. Lord of the Rings did it. Game of Thrones did it. But those are the exception, not the rule. And it took a lot more effort to make those things. Meanwhile, yeah, you know what? The people who made Jersey Shore, Real Housewives, MTV Cribs, and Punk'd, they don't have this great legacy and they're not going to be as beloved as George Lucas, George R. Martin, J.R.R. Tolkien, or J.K. Rowling ever. And they're not going to be known forever. I'm sure they're not crying about it in their McMansions with their millions of dollars because what they made was content. Some people would say what they made is slop instead of making art, and they're rich. And more people have made millions making content compared to the people who made millions or billions making art. Very few people will ever make millions, billions, or even hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands pursuing making great art. However, millions of people do very, very well for themselves by making content that people actually want to watch. And it's very hard for a lot of people. And I sympathize, by the way, which is why, hey, I make art and photography for myself. And I get the luxury of doing that. And it's good enough for me to do it on my time off or on my weekend because I make good money making content. So I never have to worry about how much money I can make on art. I do not need my art to be acknowledged by other people. I just need to be able to make it. That's what I came to. Now, it'd be nice, but I don't need it because my lifestyle is more comfortable making content than it could ever be if I made art, at least at this stage in my life. And the people who make great art, like aside from J.K. Rowling doing it when she was destitute, which was her escape and was the thing she looked forward to get her out of her depression after getting laid off, being a single mom in the UK. George R.R. Martin and J.R.R. Tolkien, they had worked regular jobs as adults, and writing is something they did basically in their retirement after working a regular job. Uh, J.R.R. Tolkien did Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit as bedtime stories for his children on his nights and weekends. He'd worked a regular job. David Gemmell was a driver in 1984 for Coca-Cola in London when he wrote Legend in 1984 and published it after begging for a publishing deal, after being rejected, like, I think 6 times, and then became one of the greatest fantasy writers in all of Europe, to the point to where in honoring him in epic fantasy, there is a David Gemmell Award named for him that they honor in epic heroic fantasy. If you write those novels, one of the highest honors you can win is the David Gemmell Award. He passed, unfortunately, I think maybe about 10 years ago, and he's my favorite writer. But David Gemmell, when I was born in 1984, he was a truck driver working for the Coca-Cola factory. He'd been a bouncer and he'd been a dock worker, and he wrote his great first fantasy novel, the first of, I think, 24 novels in 1984 while working as a truck driver. Great art is usually made on people's nights and weekends, and usually while they work a 9 to 5 job, and they have to do that. But we live in an age where everyone has the expectation that everyone has the expectation that they're going to be this full-time artist in their prime, in their youth, and leave and escape the 9 to 5 job. And it sounds depressing. It sounds worse than it is. But here's the thing. You can do things you like instead of hate and make good money. But then you have to understand that things you love might not make money at all, and that's okay. So it's better to like something that likes you back and pays you well, and that other people respond to, and then you can do work you love for free and never worry about it making a dime. And you can do it your way with no gatekeepers, no restrictions, no critics, no peanut gallery in the arena. And you can just make things to make things. You can just do things. And no one has to praise you for it because you have something you like that makes you a good living, and the thing you love never has to. That's a not unreasonable position to put yourself in. And the thing is, it's something that people struggle with, though, while they're in a 9 to 5 job that they dislike. My solution for people goes one of two ways. You can find the ability to get the skills that put you in a job you don't hate around people you like being around, because that's mostly the problem with a job. You can get to a job. I didn't get to do this, but you can get to a job where you like the people and you like the work and you like the pay. Okay. And you can do that. And then that saves you from the drudgery of a 9 to 5 job that just pays the bills that you don't like. And that job can give you a good lifestyle, and that can be a career. And it should maybe give you some flexibility to free you up to do things you love in your free time, and you should have more of that free time. So better vacation days, some remote days, some work from home days. Find a job that does that. Put yourself in a position to earn that job. Then because you've done that and you've earned that job, you can make things you enjoy and content you enjoy and that you love and pursue that, and not have to worry about how successful it's going to be per se, right? And then because you don't hate your job, you might be more lenient and say, I can make my content and meet the audience halfway or more than halfway and just get a better response. And you're less reluctant to do that if you don't hate your job. If you hate your job, you want your content to be 100% passion, even if the audience is rejecting it. But if you don't hate your job, you would be more willing to make content that people respond to well, that you don't hate either. So when you don't need everything, when you don't have something you hate taking up a lot of your day, or something you dislike, or something that makes you feel bad taking up a lot of your day, then you don't need one thing to be all things to you, whether that's your job or your content. If you like your job, you don't have to always love your content. But if you hate your job, you need to love your content and be in love with your content. That's people's struggle. If you are in love with your job, you might do content that just makes money. Some people do that. That's why some channels exist, because there are people who don't hate their job. It makes good money, but they're like, if I can just make more money, I don't care. I love my job. I don't need to quit it. I just want to make more money. So I'll do whatever works, and they'll do that. And I don't judge too harshly in that situation. Some people might though. But I think for people who deep down in their heart are artists, I think for artists, most artists either hate their job or they hate the concept of a job. Therefore, if they could become a freelancer, which is the first thing I ever taught on this channel was how to be a freelancer, really. If you become a freelancer like I did, and you can figure out how to make a living off of being a freelancer, and if you could live in a not high cost of living area, I always live in the southeastern states because it's cheap, the taxes are cheaper, cost of living is cheaper, housing is affordable, rents are affordable. Rent for a house in North Carolina, you still rent a 3-bedroom for under $1,200 a month in North Carolina, in some cases around $800 a month, and not in a bad neighborhood. You can in Georgia still rent a 4-bedroom house for $1,800 a month, 4-bedroom if you have a family and you don't want the kids to bunk up. You can still do that. It's still affordable in the Southeast. In Ohio, same thing. In the Midwest. Okay. Plenty of friends in the Midwest who will tell you that. So if you're an artist, instead of living in a metro area with a nice nightlife and art scene, the truth is you're better off living in the South or in the Midwest, cheap, becoming a freelancer, finding some retainer clients, making about $3,000 to $5,000 a month, while only having to give up 10 to 20 hours a week to do that and to prospect and get clients. And now it's not so hard to work 20 to 40 hours a week on things you love and that you like, because now you don't have a job you hate. It's not taking up a bigger part of your time. So you can make some compromises to do work that pays well even in your creativity, even in your art. So that's the balance. The thing that polarizes people is if too much of your time is on a job you hate, then you try to make sure everything else you do, you love to an extreme, but that doesn't always get you results. But you're forfeiting that because, well, the job is paying me. So I'm already compromising what I want to do. So that's what I find is the problem, and that's what I find is the balance. And that's why I became a freelancer, because it freed up the mental bandwidth. I would not have been able to become as successful as quickly if I was doing a job I resented and hated and that it made me sad. And if it made me sad. So for the artist out there, that's my message of somewhat hope to you is get a job that you don't hate or don't resent. And if your problem is you resent the concept of a 9 to 5 job and how much of your time goes into it entirely, you have to get the skill to where you could live and succeed as a freelancer without starving. And a lot of that might require you to go to a lower cost of living area. And so you have to balance lifestyle and say, okay, am I willing to let go of some lifestyle? And will that make me sad and make me miserable and depressed? Now, if your thing is you have to live in a high cost living area, you have to live in London, you have to live in New York, you have to live in Miami, you have to live in California, you have to live in San Diego, San Francisco, LA, you better be damn talented and you better be aggressive and you better be the best in the bloody world at what you do if you want to be creative, because otherwise you're going to be a starving artist and you're going to suffer and you're going to struggle and you're going to pray to every false god of luck you can find, because that's the only thing that can save you, because it's just so unrealistic to default into you get to do all of those things all at once. You're supposed to make a lot of money, live in this high cost of living area and lifestyle. You're supposed to love every minute of work that you ever do, and you're supposed to be paid well enough to be able to live and thrive in that metro artsy environment. And you never, ever, ever have to compromise anything ever. That is a charmed existence that doesn't exist, and I'm not sure it should. Not all at once, and definitely not while you're young. There's incremental things where bracketing, you can get that little by little, piece by piece, but no one has the patience to do that for 20 years. But that's the real price, unless you cheat, or unless you are unethical, or unless you're the most talented, most attractive person in the world and get to be in the right place in the right time. And when does that happen? So, like, that's a whole thing. Um, so what I would say is remote work. Remote work is the greatest thing in the world. And if you can do remote work and you can freelance and you have a little bit of a business edge to you, or you can develop one as a creative person. A lot of creative people, what holds them back is they resent the business side, they resent money, they resent rich people. But if you can lose that and you can find an edge and you can put yourself in a position to where you get retainer clients that will pay you really well, and where you have 2 or 3 clients and it pays you really well. And my answer to that is like $1,500 to $2,500 a month per client, 3 to 5 clients. That's my system for this. Is if you can do that, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. But the biggest problem is if you're in a high cost of living area, you have to do everything in your power. You have to find people who can help you get out. If you can't get out yourself, you have to find people who are willing to drive you, move you, fly you, do whatever, and get you out of that damn high cost of living area. You just have to do it. You have to put yourself in a place where there are local, easy to access resources. And there are small towns in the suburbs. You don't have to live in the sticks. You don't have to live in the sticks. There are small towns in the suburbs where there are things, and there are such thing as walkable neighborhoods. And you can get into walkable neighborhoods in the South for $1,200 to $1,800 a month. It is still doable and it's still done. It's just that it's very hard for people to let go of LA and New York for whatever reason. And I don't see cities as particularly useful, by the way, if you're not an extrovert. If you're not an extrovert, I don't know why you bother with a city. Unless you need public transportation or something else that's there, or the specific company or job, I see no reason to bother. I lived in New York City, by the way. I lived in Brooklyn. I worked in Manhattan. And if you're not an extroverted person or you're not a young 20 something in college, there's not really much point in being in a metro area. There's just not. Just live in the suburbs, because if you're not an extrovert, there's no point. Live in a walkable neighborhood in a suburb where it's quiet and you can enjoy nature and have contentment, quiet, privacy, and people leave you alone. Live in a walkable neighborhood. Use things like the Instacart or apps and have things delivered to you. Between Instacart and Amazon, you don't even have to leave the house. And that'll be that for the most part. For other things you need, there's Uber. In the suburbs, there are suburbs that have Accessoride. It's not only a metro thing. There are suburbs that have Accessoride. So those are things that I would look at. Those are things I would look at. And again, it's not meant to be a super, super ranty rant, but to everybody who's looking at, if you're watching this, you're probably a working class creator. So I bring it up. This is why the next series, the next series will be the business side of YouTube, and it'll be about the money making, the logistics, turning your room or house into a studio. It'll be setting up your LLC. It'll be all those things because the logistics of that will help a lot of you. So like that's a big issue. And also the scheduling, the setting structure, work-life balance, hiring freelancers, um, setting up payroll for your employees if you do W-2 employees, that sort of thing. That's the next series we'll do. So, but we've done our video editing workshop and we did a little bit of our, ranty rant here about transitioning from being a working class content creator to a full-time content creator. There's a lot to unpack there. I'll even talk about the fact that it's like I had to learn when I became a freelancer, I had to learn about private healthcare insurance, and I'm like, oh, I can just buy it. And again, I wish it was cheaper, but it is affordable, but I wish it was cheaper. There are bills that I have for the business that are much higher, and I pay much more in payroll taxes than I do for health insurance. Health insurance, that's not your biggest expense if you go full time. Your biggest expense if you go full time will be your taxes. Biggest expense will be your taxes. It'll be your software. It'll be commercial grade internet. In some cases, any one of your utilities as a content creator for like commercial grade internet can cost you more than the healthcare coverage. And just to not freak you all out, healthcare coverage, if you do private health insurance, if you don't have pre-existing conditions or disabilities, private healthcare insurance, if you become a freelancer, content creator, entrepreneur, if you're healthy, and let's say you're 40 and you're healthy, bronze plans, you can get them under 280. If you need the highest level silver plan like me, if you want that because you want certain deductibles or certain caps or something like that, you'll pay like $375 a month for a solo person. If you have a family, that's where it gets really expensive. If you get a family, it becomes really expensive. If that's the case for a lot of you, get and keep a remote work position that gives the healthcare benefits, but doesn't really require you to be clocked in 40 hours a week. That just is results driven, where you can produce the results. If you can work that out, then you'll be fine. That's why some content creators who could be full-time, they only keep their regular employment for the health insurance coverage and for the extra income source, because it's an easier way to make six figures is, oh, I make 80 or 120K as a content creator. Oh, but I have this 9 to 5 job that pays 80K, but also healthcare for the whole family. Oh, and they do this and they match a 401K. Okay, cool. So they just use it as a funding source. And then after that, they use the extra money and they invest in rental properties and real estate, and they use that as a hedge and an exit. They don't even worry about pension at that point. That's the more practical part of the transition to being a full-time YouTuber, is learning these things. And theoretically content creation wouldn't last forever, so you'd want to do things like pay down your debt, you pay down your mortgage, you get a rental property, you offset there so that you get 1, 2 rental properties, 3 if you're a lunatic, and then you go, okay, cash flow real estate, paid off my mortgage. If content creation doesn't work out, you have 0 mortgage, 0 debt, and then you still have real estate income. You're early retired. That's most people. Middle class content creators that go full time, that's their plan. Their plan is not to go viral and stay viral and be YouTube mega famous. That's for kids under 25 that are attractive. Like middle class content creators that came from 9 to 5 jobs, white collar jobs, blue collar trades, and such. The plan is very simple: pay off debt with YouTube and your content creation sponsors. Pay off debt, pay off mortgage, take residuals, go into real estate, stocks, set up your dividend stocks, set up your growth stocks, set up your real estate, not financial advice. And then if YouTube goes bust, you have 0 mortgage, 0 debt, and your cost of living is covered by cash flow real estate, appreciating property, and a decent enough stock portfolio with some dividends on it and some growth stocks to get you to older age, the compound year over year. And that's everybody's exit. That's everybody's plan. That it's a middle class content creator that knows they don't want to do this for 15 or 20 years, or that they can't do it for 15 or 20 years. That's the strategy. That's the exit. We'll cover that more when we do our next series. We'll cover that more when we do our next series, but that's kind of a preview of what you can expect, and that's the kind of thing that I've talked about with people in the academy. For those of you who cannot afford to join the Awesome Creator Academy Pro Group, do check out our free Creator Foundations course. Do check out our free Creator Foundation's Discord server where you can communicate, find support, find some like-minded creators, share analytics, share thumbnails. So happy to have you guys do that there. But yeah, we have other offers over at awesomecreatoracademy.com for you guys to check out. Highly encourage a lot of you to take advantage of one of our best, cheapest products, which is the $9 AI creator prompts for ChatGPT. We've made some of the most productivity driven and efficient prompts that you can use for ChatGPT. You can also play with them. We've tested them in Grok and in Claude, and they do very well in Grok if you want to use Grok on X, or if you want to use Claude Sonnet, the AI creator prompts do translate and work for those AI tools as well. So that's only a $9 product. We have it linked in the chat. It's linked in the description of the video. Of course, you can reach out for one-on-one coaching with me if that's something you can afford and are interested in. And again, I can talk high concept YouTube stuff like we talked about with this whole exit strategy thing, the multiple streams of income, negotiating brand deals, monetization, content strategy, outliers, video ideas. I was a graphic designer, thumbnail breakdowns, all of the things if you want to work with me one-on-one. But if you can't afford that, like I said, you can either join the Academy Pro group, you can join the Discord server, and you can take our free Creator Foundations course to make sure that you are following best practices and getting some simple and straightforward answers to the most basic questions about content creation and getting yourself off the right track. So those are some of the things we throw out there. We're going to call it a night. Great workshop tonight. Next week is week 7. So make sure you come back for that. The last weeks of our workshop series, this 12-week workshop series, are going to focus heavily around strategies for different types of channels. So we're going to have a workshop where we talk about entertainment channels, like Casey Neistat, for example, and what he did with vlogging. We'll talk about other types of content creators that you've seen, like Emma Chamberlain, for example. But there'll be more. We'll talk about the entertainment niches, and we'll have a breakdown of them. And then there's also the education niches that I like. And so we'll talk about creators like Cleo Abram and Ali Abdal. They're at the top of their game there. So we'll do breakdowns and case studies around that. And of course, we'll talk about content strategy more holistically, of course. And of course, we'll be ending the workshop with things that most small YouTubers are doing wrong. So we have several more weeks. We have 6 more weeks after this to look forward to. This is week 6. Come back Wednesday for week 7 and beyond. And we will catch you next time. You're going to learn a little bit more about Awesome Creator Academy here as we end the stream. But thank you so much. Stay awesome. And I will catch you all next time. Take care.
Becoming a content creator can be a very lonely process and adventure, but it doesn't have to be. When I first got started going from 0 to 100,000 subscribers, I had to do it all by myself. I didn't have a community of like-minded and like-hearted creators to talk to or to ask for advice, and I certainly didn't have a mentor to guide me along the way. I built the Awesome Creator Academy Pro group because when I was getting started, what would have meant the world to me is not to have to struggle alone when it comes to being a full-time content creator. If I had had a community of creators that I could talk to and share information with, I would have avoided a lot of mistakes in my early career, and there would have been opportunities with brand deals where I would have gotten a better understanding of how to negotiate, and I wouldn't have undersold myself. I wouldn't have been taken advantage of in those early situations. So in the Awesome Creator Academy Pro group, myself and our co-instructor Andy Rivera, we meet twice a week for office hours with our creators, and we share information, we talk about how we're building our creator businesses, and we offer constructive criticism and critique on the things that we're working on for our projects. You'll be part of a community of usually around 100 like-minded creators who are taking this seriously just like you are. You'll also have all access as a pro group member to all of our past, present, and future courses, training, templates, digital downloads, and swipe files. You have full access to our creator blueprints where you'll see our systems and the frameworks that we use to execute. You know, you always fall or rise to the standard of your systems. A lot of people really underestimate how important that is. We have digital download templates that can help you so you don't have to start with a blank canvas. These done for you files are actually incredibly helpful, especially for things like your thumbnails, your media kits, and anything you need for your branding as a content creator to look professional. We have email swipe files that help you with reaching out to brands. We have great information in helping you price yourself and build your packages appropriately. And remember, as part of the pro group, you have the opportunity to ask questions from myself and all the other creators participating. And so this means that if you need to ask questions about a negotiation or a brand deal, there's something you're not sure about, you're trying to find a better monetization opportunity with merch or affiliates, you have people who have done it before, who are already making money, that you can reach out to for advice. As I said, when I was starting out and I was flying solo, this is the thing that I wish I'd had the opportunity to be a part of, and it would have made all the difference in the world in helping me be an even more successful content creator. If you have questions, you can always reach out via support. We're happy to help you figure out if the pro group is right for you. Also, we do have the opportunity for you to become a VIP member if you also would like quarterly one-on-one coaching with me directly. Now go out there and create something awesome today, and hopefully we'll see you in the pro group. Take care.